I am Groot. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that shit is funny. Oh, good evening and welcome to another edition of Unpopular Reviews. I am the Mark, and today we are covering Guardians of the Galaxy. And today I am joined by none other than the executive consultant.
Hey, man, I'm glad to see you remember what movie you were watching, because it was a dramatic pause there. So I thought you forgot what movie you were watching, and I'm also glad to see that our fans got to watch you just looking around aimlessly for about 10 seconds before you got on this show.
I was just thinking about the,
about the movie. Yeah, I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. But
you having a conversation with this dude, and he's just like,
thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is why you don't drink before a show. But let's go ahead and
listen. Also, I'd like to introduce everybody to See the Superior.
What's going on?
Chrissy. Hey, Chrissy.
Hi.
Also, we are joined by wait, what is it? Undisputed today?
False. Reading is fundamental.
Unexpected. Thank you. I'm sorry, James.
Thank you.
But and lastly, we have a special guest today. Dang, I forgot Rashad's name. I forgot what he put in.
The next doctor, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on?
Doctor, thank you, Mr. Executive Consultant, and welcome the next doctor. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It should be a good time because, in my opinion, this is a really good movie. Because full disclosure, I'm still watching it. So, yeah.
Welcome, doctor. How you doing today?
I am excellent.
Have you come to replace that terrible doctor that's currently on the show now?
It's a Doctor Who reference. You know, us people who are not nerds, we don't know what Doctor Who is.
I'm sure you know. You just think that'd be a movie. That's fine.
I feel so bad about skipping entire seasons of a show, but I just can't do it.
I have actually not watched this newest season.
I haven't either. I can't do it. They got rid of Capaldi. I'm like, come on now. But everybody, we're reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, not to be confused with Volume 2 or the upcoming Volume 3. Join us. Of course, leave comments. Let us know what you think. Put questions up because periodically we will be jumping over to that live chat, to the comment section to see what you all think. So we're going to start off in Earth, 1988. And
that's where we're starting?
Yes, in Earth, or Terra.
Yes.
I'm glad to see everybody was alive during this year too. I don't know how many people that remember it, but I'm glad to see all 5 of us were alive.
Mm-hmm.
I was not alive.
I was about to say, actually no. See the Superior was not alive. She wasn't Superior then.
Well, in Earth 1988, pre-Chrissy, we find Quill in a hospital, and he's actually listening to his Walkman, his Sony Walkman, that we're going to see throughout the movie.
Classic technology.
Say that again?
It's a classic technology.
There you go.
Yes, it is.
Brought to us by the Japanese.
I guess better the Japanese than the Chinese.
No, I mean, we gave the Japanese, and the Japanese gave us technology. You see, they're nicer people than we are, you know? Anyway.
All right, go ahead.
So it opens up the hospital. Quill is listening to I'm Not in Love. And we realize that actually he's in the hospital because his mom is in the hospital. And we don't know what she has, if it's cancer or what have you. But as it happens, she's dying. She has a brain tumor. And his grandfather comes in and he brings him in to see his mom before she passes, right? Mm-hmm. And as he's led into the room, he doesn't want to be there. I mean, who would? And it's a tough time. And his mother's talking to him, and she's trying to convey all the things that you imagine, you know, with your last moments that you want to get across. You know what I mean? And he's a little boy. We don't know exactly how old he is. but it's hard for him to take in, and so he can't really. I don't want to say appreciate that moment, but he can't really take it all in. He doesn't even really want to make eye contact. And his grandfather is urging him to go on and be present in this moment. And his mother says that she has a gift for him, and somebody hands her the gift to hand to him. And before he can actually reach out and make contact with his mom, the grandfather takes the gift and puts it in his backpack. And the mom says, "Open that after I'm gone." And so she asks for him to hold her hand, you know what I mean, one last time. And as she's doing that, she's telling him, you know, you look just like your dad does. You know, he was an angel. He was full of light. You know, he came from the stars. And everybody in the room, and maybe even Peter himself, thinks that this is part of, you know, the tumor, the brain tumor talking. And we don't know yet if it is or not, if it's delusional or not. But it's too much for him to take. And he runs off as she succumbs to her ailment. And he doesn't take off, rather. The grandfather takes him outside the room as the doctors come in and as the adults in the family grieve. And he runs off, and he runs outside of the hospital into, I guess, the surrounding woods area and everything like that. And it's kind of foggy and misty in the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, as he's crying, knelt down, there's a bright light, and he is taken by some kind of beam or something like that. Yeah, like classic UFO, you know what I mean? And that's actually the title card, and we see Marvel come up, and that's the beginning of the movie. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in so far and say their first thoughts in this opening sequence.
Well, go ahead, C.
Oh, no, it just reminded me of the Star Trek movies, to me anyway. When they first, I'm bringing it up because when they first showed Kirk, he was like a young man, or keep in mind I haven't seen this movie in years, and they showed, you know, him as he was when he was younger, kind of getting into trouble or whatever. Then doesn't he get like kind of beamed up or something in one of those things? But I could be wrong. But as I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like, this kind of reminds me of the Star Trek. And that comes again later on in the film. I wonder, was there ever a crossover, like maybe in the comic books or something between these two? Because they are kind of similar.
Chrissy, what I think you're thinking of is that J.J. Abrams copies every other film he's seen and then puts his name on it. So that's why his movies seem familiar to you, because you have seen them before. They're called Power 4, 5, and 6. He called them episode 7.
But she's a fan of the Space Journey series that happened in 2009.
They were interesting. I liked them. They were fun movies.
Star Trek.
Yikes.
No, they were not interesting. All
they
right,
were fun movies.
James hit the nail right on the head when he said that, you know, he copies everything. We'll learn that more when we go into the Star Wars franchise. But no, I have to disagree with you respectfully, see the superior, or with this reminding me of Star Trek, because I'm not going to insult the great name of Star Trek by, you know, lowering it to Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a good movie, and I'll talk more about it. But it's nowhere near the level of a Trekkie.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have the legacy, but I would still say this is a
this is a good movie.
It's definitely better than Star Trek 1.
It doesn't have the legacy, which means it's a shade under.
Or it's just a shade, like it just came out later.
A different shade. I mean, you can have red and you can have brown. They can work well in the same.
You know what? In some ways,
I see a crossover.
In some ways, I can respect the fact that she said that, because that means she's trying to pay attention to history, considering she wasn't born in 1988, so she wasn't aware of this actual year. She's not exactly familiar exactly what's going on. Okay, but let's go ahead and continue to talk about the music, because the music's what made the movie.
Okay, the music was good.
And this is actually going to be my thought process when it comes to this movie when I give my final thoughts, which I'm giving my first thought. Take the music out and let's talk about how fantastic, because somebody used that word earlier, this movie is. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to jump in. Speaking about the music, though, I wrote down the lyrics because he's listening to I'm Not in Love, right? Mm-hmm. This is his mom. And arguably for a boy, his first love is always going to be his mother, right? Mm-hmm. And the lyrics go, I'm not in love, or some of them, I'm not in love, so don't forget it. It's just a silly phase I'm going through. And just because I call you up, don't get me wrong, don't think you got it made. I'm not in love. I'm not in love. And this is what he's listening to. And the opening song is a theme that we're going to see throughout this movie, not just for this character, Quill, but we're going to see this for all the Guardians in the movie and throughout their journey as far as their growth within the confines of this film. You know what I mean? And I think this is just an opening, a great opening. I didn't know the Guardians before that. You know what I mean? I was never a big Marvel person before that. The X-Men were my people, my avenue in there, maybe Spider-Man. But to not know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy, and for me to care so much about a character, for me to be emotionally involved in what he was going through, it was great. It was like, what, 5 minutes, but I was in this movie, you know what I mean? And I remember that distinctly when I saw it for the first time. Anybody else before we go on?
I think you hit it.
My question about the beginning is, it's very weird how he runs out of the hospital and then all of a sudden gets abducted, like if it was planned, like that's very weird. Like why
him?
I mean, are they gonna get back to that at some point?
They answer it twice in the movie via dialogue, both by the person who abducted him and by somebody else who was there at the time of his abduction, and they both call on it. And then Quill himself, he refers back to it at the end of the movie, at the climax of the movie. So 3 times it's referred to and it's hinted at, and the full answers are given in volume 2. But in volume 1, they do answer that question, how it is that they knew to come there and why they got him, if in fact he was special. To say it like that. But yeah. So anyway, the movie jumps to 20 years later or 26 years later, and we are at a
hold on. I have a question. How old was this brat before he got abducted?
We don't know. It doesn't say.
Who knows?
So do we have a round table on like a good guess of how old this brat was?
Like
around 10 to 12.
Yeah.
All right, so he ran out the hospital room and no person over the age of 18 went out to help him?
Again, I think that's the point, because we see that throughout the movie. Remember, the mother wanted to touch her son. This is my opinion, okay?
Right.
The mother wanted to hold her son one last time as best she could, and she meant for him to take that gift from her hands, right? That's why she asked again to hold his hand, right? The grandfather interceded, and he took the gift away, right? So that connection was denied. When his daughter passed away, he thought of his grief, and all the other adults in there thought of their grief, their sister, their cousin, whoever, and they pushed him aside. And so he had no one. That's why obviously his connection to his mom is going to be strong, but that's why he's so emotionally tethered to that moment, because that was the only one who he had in this world. As far as he knows, his father abandoned him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what state were they in? Do we remember where they lived?
That's Missouri, isn't it?
Okay, all right.
Because that's where volume 2 takes place. It's not.
So what you're saying is the state of Missouri has trash ass family. That's what you're saying.
I didn't say that, but
that's fine. That's fine. They have trash family because all they think about is their grief. They don't think about, hey, son lost their mom. But that's fine. That's cool. And then he runs out and gets abducted, and nobody puts him in a milk carton. I got you. All right, go ahead.
And very well milk carton, but he's not on the planet anymore. Who's going to find him?
That's true.
They didn't put him on a milk carton.
How do you know? They never.
Right. Maybe they did.
Because I was alive in 1988 and I didn't see it on Dateline. That's how I know.
But also, to answer your question, in a line of dialogue later in the film, when Quill says to Yondu, you took me from my home, Yondu calls him out on that nonsense. He says, you don't give a damn about Terra. Okay, which is what they refer to Earth as. You don't give a damn about Terra. You never wanted to go back. And we see that Yondu, he lives a Ravager lifestyle. He's not a great role model. He did the best that he could. What's up, Joseph? He did the best that he could, you know what I mean? But he's not a true father figure. He's just the best that Quill had. So when we see Quill's behavior in the beginning of this movie, is very much like Yondu's and the other Ravagers. You see what I'm saying? And so, again, the boy took the best of what he had, and he shaped an identity based off of that. And that's how we are introduced to Quill 26 later, to go back to that, on the planet Morag. And the planet is given a designation of an abandoned planet. We don't know what happened, but the city that he's in right now is in ruins, and he's making his way. And this is the introduction of Star-Lord, yet untitled. And he uses technology, and he's able to trace where he needs to go to this old temple now in ruins. And he gets
about that thing he was using to see. He he was scanning the area, but then he could see like movement, like life.
Yeah.
Was that like scanning things that are still there, but he couldn't necessarily see without that, or was it like
it was what it was
before
whatever? Yeah, before the devastation took place.
Like some type
of
recorder he probably got off the black market, so he could see where he needed to go.
Mm-hmm. Because first he looked at the footsteps, and then you could see them like what they would have been doing, like based on the tracks. I guess it was an amalgamation of something, you know. But I have a suspicion that because he's going to get the orb, and we know that the orb contains the Power Stone in this film, so I suspect that something happened and it destroyed that planet. That's why there's no vegetation or anything like that, and just mutated looking creatures on it. Whereas when he's looking through that visor thing, everything looks pretty much like it looked like Earth or something like that, you know.
It's a good upside.
He makes his way, he picks the lock, and he gets into this room, and he uses like a magnetic pull, and it gets the orb out of this laser containment field, and he picks it up, and just as he picks it up,
Indiana Jones,
exactly, right? I was waiting for like things to shoot out the walls or whatever like that.
Even his jacket. Look at the coat. You see how his clothes look?
And he hears somebody like drop it, you know, and he turns around and we see Korath the Pursuer, who we saw before in Captain Marvel. Now I can't remember. Did he have those cybernetic things in Captain Marvel?
Who? Say it again. Show me again. I don't know.
Did he have those cybernetic implants?
No,
I don't.
He didn't. Okay. Well, anyway, in this movie, he has them.
You know why?
Why?
I mean, it was Captain Marvel. You don't show up for work in Captain Marvel. Obviously, look at Brie Larson's acting.
No, okay.
Oh God.
Well, they didn't pay her enough, maybe. I don't know.
They paid her. Did they pay her at all?
Yeah, I would have.
They paid her too much.
They paid her more than I'm making.
They paid her too much.
Right.
Well, I mean, you know what? Anybody could have just stood there and said, you know, some cheesy ass lines that had no after effect, like Brie Larson did in Captain Marvel. That's why it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. What do you think of it, Iron Groot?
Well, no, they just got out of the. No, it's cool. It's cool because cool. I think it's cool because they're like fighting out of the prison and stuff, and they're like kicking everybody's ass.
What?
Groot just did some really cool shit where he made a flower, right? So I'm just thinking like, yo, why don't you make like a fucking like a couple of like, you know, grapevines and some avocado trees and something that like takes a long time to grow. Like, could you imagine if you just had Groot in a box? Like, I would love to be rocking
what is going on here?
and just have.
I could imagine somebody actually paying attention to the show. I don't know what you're talking about right now. You are jumping way ahead of unexpected right there.
Right, we're talking about when he grabs the orb.
Oh, when he grabs the orb and they all start fighting.
This scene right here.
Yeah, there you go. You see, remember that thing
so now when he grabs the orb. Yeah, no. So wait, then when he grabs the orb, he still doesn't know what the hell the orb is for.
He doesn't know what's in it. Yeah,
he has absolutely no idea what's going on. Like the cool thing about this, what I like is that like as the story continues to go on, he's learning more about what the orb is about. So like he's just literally blindly going into just to steal this thing for some money. So it kind of gives you a little bit more of an insight as to who he is and to his character, as far as like him being an outlaw, and the fact that everybody's making fun of him. You know, he's like, "Oh, Star is brat," and he's like, "Come on, Star-Lord, man." And it's kind of
he gets no respect. He's very much like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
he doesn't remind people who he is.
Way to clean that up, Vic. Way to clean that up. I appreciate that. All right, go ahead.
Something that I didn't mention though.
Can we take a step back though?
Huh?
And just take a step back and for the opening part, because during the introduction, when he gets to the cave to finally gets towards the orb, that's when we have the actual title card for the movie. And it also introduces him as an adult.
Yes.
And you really get to see his personality. You know,
exactly.
One of the beautiful things about this movie is the music goes so well with it, and it portrays everything so beautifully. And definitely in this scene when he's, you know, just having fun going through the cave towards the orb, you really get to see how what his character is about. It really introduces him nice. And I like the way they did that in this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that in every sequence that you have the music playing louder in the background, as if it's for us to like, hey, pay attention. It goes exactly with the story and what they're trying to convey, the message. And I think that's brilliant. I think this movie does that, well, without thinking about it, better than most, if not many other films, you know. And something that I didn't mention because Vic brought up, when everybody keeps saying, and even Korath, he is like, who is Star-Lord? He gets that name from his mother because that's the name she always used to call him. You're my little Star-Lord. You know what I mean? And so again, we see this theme of his connection with his mother, who he never let go of that tether, you know? So anyway, a fight breaks out. Star-Lord takes out two of Korath's henchmen. He blasts Korath, who is like just stunned by this, you know, these two blasts in the chest, and he pursues him across the surface of Morag. We find out that Korath still has some other guys, and they're by the Milano. We don't know the name of the ship yet, but that's a Star-Lord ship. And so Star-Lord, it's almost like a black hole bomb or something like that. He tosses at them, and they're sucked again to like this little magnetic bomb or whatever that is, and they can't move at all. And he jumps into the Milano and takes off. Korath is screaming something at these guys to set up this cannon to shoot at him. Star-Lord dodges that blast. He's taken off. We see that he's a great pilot. Again, to Chrissy's point, a la Indiana Jones when he jumps in the plane. There's a snake in the plane. I hate snakes, you know what I mean? And he gets a little too cocky, and a geyser hits him, and it shuts off the engine. He's falling, and he manages to pull the throttle one last time, and it kicks him up, and he's able to break Morag orbit, and he's in space. And then he's startled by some random chick who's in there.
Yeah, some pink girl. And again, this is very much like Star Trek. Remember when Captain Kirk had all them girls in the bed, and they were like the alien girls with all the different colors and stuff. It's like, this is very much Star Trek. It reminded me so much of that movie. I want to mention it every time.
Thank you, Mr. Sherlock. We appreciate that.
Y'all know y'all remember that scene with Captain Kirk.
I think
you're going to stop.
Also had the actress in this movie in that same scene.
Say that again.
So it coincidentally also had an actress that's in this movie that plays in that same scene.
Oh, see? They know what they're doing. I know what I'm talking
No, that wasn't her in the same scene. That wasn't her.
Later on, she was in there because she came in.
They were roommates. Yeah,
but she did come in, and like he had to hide.
Yeah, so it is the same universe.
Out in the Star Trek.
Don't do that. Stop doing that. Marvel and Star Trek are not the same universe.
No. I'm talking about like they have potential crossover. Like they could in the same.
No, they don't. How is Gamora going to meet up with Uhura? No. Explain that to me.
I'm not saying that she's going to ever meet up with herself in Star Trek, but I'm saying obviously they're somewhere in the same universe because they have the same girl in
I want to go.
Crazy.
The geeky explanation of why they're not is because they know of Terra, and in the Star Trek universe, you have different species who live right around the solar system that don't exist in the Marvel universe. So just for that reason, since the same species don't even exist, they couldn't be in the same universe.
But could they be the same species just with different names? Or could it just be that they haven't been discovered yet in Marvel?
No, that's not how it works. Because a shark is still a shark. If a shark doesn't exist, then it's not Earth. If the shark
I'm not talking about in the comics, but as far as the MCU.
No.
And this Star Trek, they already shown that they are in the same universe because they use the same girl.
Chrissy, I'll give you Indiana Jones.
No.
I'll give you Indiana Jones.
Explain them using the same
I can't go with you any farther than that.
Why are you doing this? Did you see a smile on my face to begin this episode? We can't say we can't have that, Chris.
No, but listen. Explain them having the same character in both movies, in both universes.
They don't have the same
character. It's just
one is pink, number one, and the other one is green.
Yeah.
It's the same character.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being colorblind. I have nothing against colorblind.
No. Okay, so are we going to assume that we know everything about these aliens, that they don't just change colors? Maybe she changed colors depending on her mood.
I don't assume. I don't assume I wrote the movie.
I don't change colors.
I don't assume I wrote the movie. We don't do that on the show. But here's what I'm trying to tell you. All right. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not the same thing. Nobody's going to take up for you.
Somebody's going to take up for you.
Because your stalker is not in the comments, so nobody's going to take up for you.
What? No, don't say that about our fans.
Ricky is not in the comments, so
don't
nobody's
taking up. Don't say that about our fans. Next.
All right. I've been next to like I'm an MTV character of 2003. All right, James.
There is also another crossover. Star-Lord's pistols or alien guns, they're the same guns from Halo that the Covenant used.
You've got to be kidding me. Y'all are really reaching today.
It's the same gun, that double like pistol looking thing. It's the same one the Covenant uses.
I think this movie had a mushroom in it too. So Mario needs to appear somewhere down the line, right? That was your talk. What's the next thing?
All I'm saying is that that gun from Halo. That's all.
All I'm saying is Captain America doesn't have any special powers, but nobody had anything to say about that. Now
Captain America did have special powers. Captain America has special powers. He was able to get any man he wanted because he had America's ass. He got Falcon. He got Bucky. He had Bucky. Bucky was oh my god. And you know what the sad thing is?
No, he had Falcon. Falcon was more.
He had Falcon, but he wanted Bucky because Bucky he screwed Bucky. He fell in love, and Bucky said,
"I don't." Bucky was playing hard to get. The Falcon was really.
Bucky wasn't playing hard to get. Bucky said it was a one night stand, bro. Like relax, you know what I'm saying? And
Bucky said, "Stop talking." Pretty much.
But Chris, you knew it was personal because he literally choked the life out of Bucky. he grabbed her, he tried to choke her for a little bit because he was pissing her off. Anyway, back aboard the Milano. I'm sorry, Vic, you with us?
All right. Yeah. Y'all crazy. How Captain America is gonna go back in time on some gay shit? He went back in time for his girl. Okay, I need to stop all of that gay shit with Captain America just because of Bucky and Falcon and all of this stuff. Like he had friends, but he loved his girl. He went
to not an officer in Minnesota. How is that a kid?
All right, what's the next scene of the movie?
Okay, so in that scene they were talking about on the news on aboard the Milano or whatever. There was like he was watching some news program and they said that there was something mentioned about the Kree Emperor and the what's it called Xandar Nova Prime. Apparently there was like some kind of tension between those two about some it was like some protest going on. That was kind of mentioned in the back.
They were at war for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
but
so
they had like some kind of uneasy agreement or something because there was some protest going on in the city about that. Sorry, I'm trying to open my free snacks.
Okay, so they just signed the peace treaty to end the war, right? Mm-hmm. And they were protests against that because some people didn't like the terms of the arrangement. And that's when we get the introduction of Ronan aboard the Dark Aster. He's one of those people because remember, as we saw in Captain Marvel, the Kree are militaristic people. And they are bred and they are conditioned to believe and spread militarism, Kree militarism, and Kree culture and everything like that. And that's why they were persecuting the Skrulls. Okay, mm-hmm. And we see that Ronan is considered. He opens up. It was the speech almost reminded me of what the Mandarin was saying. You know, when you call me a terrorist and everything. Like he started off with something like that, and we see him getting bathed and dressed. You know. And they put the paint on him. I guess that's like war paint or judge paint, you know. Mm-hmm. And we realize that he's working with Thanos and he's made an arrangement. And he says, I will get this orb for you. He doesn't, again, even Ronan doesn't know what's in the orb, but I will get this orb for you if you help me destroy Xandar because he wants to go to Xandar Prime, which is where Nova Prime is, and destroy that because that's the capital of the Xandarian Empire. And he feels if he does that, he will be in service to the Kree people, even if they don't know what they're doing. He thinks that them signing the peace treaty makes them weak and they've lost their way. But he's a sub, okay?
Real quick though, Ronan, he's the Kree Emperor, is that right?
No, he's a judge in the Kree military.
But he's Kree.
Yes, he is Kree.
And the in Captain Marvel, they were Kree too?
Yes, all the Krees are different. They have different colored skin tones and everything like that.
So that means, you know what that means?
It means that Orion is not in this universe.
So if The Kree can change colors.
I like the setup.
They're not changing colors, Chrissy. They're not changing colors.
Why is she doing this to me?
Changing colors. They just happen to be different colors, just like on Earth. There are different shades of people.
Because all the Kree Marvels just so happen to be
on
green.
Earth change colors too.
There are no green Kree. They're blue. They're purple. They're black. They're white.
Were they green in Captain Marvel?
No.
What color was the dude who was sick? He was like sipping on the lemonade or something. What color was he?
Was he drinking lemonade on Kree? Really?
No, he was drinking lemonade.
He wasn't Kree though.
What was he?
Are those you're eating, Chrissy? What do you have in there?
He was.
I'm having fruit snacks.
What were the ones they were persecuting? He was one of the ones they were persecuting. I forgot.
Oh, you're talking about the Skrulls. You're talking about
Skrulls, yeah. The green people were the Skrulls.
Yeah. Okay, I was confused when you said the green. Yeah, those are the people that the Kree wanted to destroy.
So we didn't get an image of the Kree in that movie. I can't remember. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, the Kree. You remember what is the guy's name? That trained Captain Marvel. He was like the captain of their crew, or whatever. Him, the other soldiers and everything like that. Those were all Kree. They had like violet color eyes or something like that.
Oh, and okay, yeah.
The Skrulls were shapeshifters, so the shapeshifters could take any form that they wanted.
Any form in any color, right?
Yeah, the Skrulls could. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's next. What scene are we on?
So we realized that Ronan is working with Thanos, and that's the arrangement. I get the orb for you. You help me destroy Xandar Prime, and I will be living out my purpose as a Kree soldier, as a Kree judge. Okay. So
Didn't
anyway,
Thanos sound like a little different in this movie? Was he voiced by the same actor in this movie? Because he didn't sound the same like he did in
Thanos
to me. Yeah. Did he sound like? Was it the same actor?
Yes, Josh Brolin. It's still Josh Brolin, right?
I kind of noticed that too. I think he just maybe didn't get fully into his role yet, but it was definitely Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the first time that he appeared as Thanos?
Fully, I think.
Did he do
that? It was a after credit scene for something, wasn't it?
I mean, no, that after credit scene didn't look like him at all. Like it looked that after credit scene from what movie was it?
Avengers, right?
Oh yeah, after Avengers, yeah, they looked totally different from this.
Was that his voice?
That's unfortunate.
It wasn't his voice; it was a different actor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, we go back to Xandar, and that's the introduction to Rocket, Raccoon, and Groot, and the Broker. Okay. And we see, because what we talked about when Quill was on the Milano, he got a call from Yondu, right? And Yondu said, "You double crossed me. I told you about the plan to steal that orb to make a lot of money, and you double crossed me, and you got there first. I'm coming after you." Okay. And so this is the introduction of Yondu. And again, this is the first time we hear that I took you in, I saved you, I protected you as a little kid. You know what I mean? And I could have let them eat you, but I didn't. I had your back. You owe me, and you're betraying me, right? So on Xandar, we see Quill, and he's trying to sell the orb to the broker because that's who's buying it. And the broker has a client who's willing to pay a lot of money. And so Quill is trying to sell it to him. And Quill, not knowing everything that's going on, is just running his mouth because he's a kid. He's a big kid. And he's showing off. And he says, yeah, I did this. And Ronan was after it and everything. And when the broker hears that Ronan is after it, he knows that Ronan is a nut job, and he says, I want no part of this, because if Ronan finds out that I had something to do with it, he'll destroy me. And not only me, he wants to wipe out my people. So I'm not going to bring that heat and attention to me. Get out of here. I don't want anything to do with you.
I don't want that smoke.
And so when Quill is thrown out of the broker's store.
Oh yeah, he's thrown out of the broker's area or whatever. And then as the door slams on him, that's when we see Gamora, and she has already been kind of she was sent to take the orb from him by Ronan, because she's working underneath Ronan at this time, and so again she's leaning up against the wall, eating her apple, looking like Sly, and talking to Star-Lord, and of course he's like this ladies' man, so he takes the opportunity to kind of boast and brag about himself. And she kind of like gets the grab on him and takes the orb. Go right ahead, King.
Okay, thank you. I'm in and out with this Wi-Fi.
And I think that's also another testament to the character of Star-Lord, Peter Quill. He shifts gears just like that, you know, like a kid. Oh, okay, something shiny over here. All right, let me focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows, just like his fight in the temple when he first got the orb, that he has skills, because what plays out later is he doesn't just sit down and take it, you know. Just like that, right off the bat, he goes in the attack and gets it back.
And two things I want to piggyback: one, on what you just said about him having skills, and two, I can't remember who said, but it's like Captain Jack Sparrow when Rashad, when you said that he's able in any situation to try and get the upper hand. Again, we see what he's learned from being with the Ravagers. That time, you know, having to be a pirate, a smuggler, you have to think on your feet. You know what I mean? And to that point, he's dealing with people and species that may have superhuman abilities compared to him. He has to be on his A game at every moment, because he's not just traveling around the galaxy, but he's traveling around the galaxy stealing from people who might have powers and abilities. So he uses tech, he uses skills and knowledge, and his knowledge of people, if you will, to get around it. And something that we talked about, I think in the last episode or 2 episodes before, when they said, well, how can somebody without powers do something? This is a prime example. Forethought, planning, skill, tech, you know what I mean?
But
good.
He has a little bit. He's
later
not
on,
just a human.
Later on, it's
no. He is a human. He does not manifest any of his celestial, but he doesn't manifest any of his celestial abilities. In that
he isn't aware of it, but it's possible that his strength and his DNA.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. In this chase sequence, they show it when Gamora takes the orb and he throws the that like bolo thing at her that knocks her, that ties her legs together, and she gets up and then she throws the knife at his hand. That knife cuts him. We see that later on in that same sequence that his hand is cut. We see when he jumps down on Gamora from the higher ledge. Are
you sure about that? Are you sure about that?
Yes.
He got cut from that knife.
Yeah, hold on. Let's ask Vic, because he just watched that scene. Vic,
no, I mean I didn't see that. I didn't see that cut.
I don't know if he got cut, but I can attest to later on he shows his actual scars.
Yes.
Later on in the movie that, you know, he got scar in the side. Someone tried to rip out his collarbone.
All emotional.
But he's there talking about women because he's a ladies' man. And that's in the beginning of the movie. In the beginning of the movie was hilarious. He gets into this whole thing, and then this one girl is there, this like orange looking girl, and he's like, "Oh my God, yo, I forgot you were here."
the Star Trek girl.
Like, really, you asshole?
No. I remember those days. No, let's talk about this in a second. We're at 38 minutes. We're gonna have to take a commercial break, but we'll be right back after this small message.
Thank you for watching this edition of The Unpopular Review. If you like what you're watching, please subscribe to us on our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at UPRYEPILW. Also, while you're at it, subscribe to our friends at Yep I Like Wrestling on the same social medias at YEPILW. Yep.
Yahoo! Come on! Oh yeah! Hey! Hey!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for watching here us at Unpopular Reviews Entertainment Edition, talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, came out in 2014. Executive consultant here along with Cedar Superior. I am Groot, Unexpected, and the Next Doctor. That's right. We do not use our real names. We're in the MCU and apparently Star Trek universe for some reason because somebody doesn't know what they're talking about. Anyway,
it's all one. They're all the same.
All right. James, hold on.
No, but
did you say I am Groot or I agree?
He said I agree.
He said, "Hell no, what you smoking?" All right, I speak Groot. I speak Groot. Yeah,
I am Groot.
Thank you, Groot. Thank you.
All right, so we're still on Xandar Prime, and there's a chase sequence and everything like that. And we actually see the start of Gamora's ethics, okay? Even though she's a trained killer, she's an assassin, she doesn't relish the fact that she kills, because there's a quote from her when after Quill jumps down on her and tackles her, she says, "You fool! You should have learned." that she's about to kill him. You know what I mean? And before she says, "I don't enjoy this. I don't take delight in this. This isn't how it's supposed to go." Right? We see Rocket and Groot. They're trying to capture Quill because he has a bounty of 40,000 credits on his head. And so they actually, Rocket says, grab the guy, and Groot, not knowing a guy from a girl, he grabs Gamora, and so Quill is able to get away. That's when she throws the hand dagger or whatever, the knife at him, and he drops the orb that way. They fight until actually the Nova Corps show up, and they put them in these like tractor beams to hold them in stasis, and that's when we jump to their rap sheet scene, and we see the history.
Before that scene, one of the guards, and anyone who's a Roswell fan out there will know exactly who one of the guards was. It was Michael from Roswell. He made a little appearance in the movie, and he was one of the
What's
guards.
Roswell?
You know what Roswell is. Everyone should know what Roswell is. And also, I noticed that in Marvel, they seem to always put, aside from Captain Marvel, the females in the movies are always some kind of assassin. They never have like any kind of power beyond assassin. It's like
that's not necessarily true.
Gamora has powers.
We got Gamora. No, I'm talking about she is a trained assassin.
What about Pepper Potts?
Pepper Potts? We're not talking about Pepper
wait, Chrissy, can you repeat what you said? Marvel never what?
Marvel, when they put a female lead in their movies, it's always a female assassin. It's never like a super powered female who can take on the likes of the Hulk or something like that. It's always she's a trained assassin, and that's pretty much it.
Well, they have She-Hulk. She-Hulk can come out. I don't know who can play She-Hulk.
No,
as long as it's not Brie Larson, it should do good.
I mean, but wait, Captain Marvel she is.
Yeah, Captain Marvel can handle Hulk. Actually, from what I saw in the last couple of
aside from Captain Marvel, it's always
from what I saw in the last couple of Hulk movies, anybody can handle Hulk.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But yeah, they
did kind of do Hulk dirty near the end.
What was the last movie Hulk was a threat? Like, really?
The Incredible Hulk.
There you go.
No,
which isn't part of the MCU.
The Avengers.
I don't care what they say.
I mean, they did say it's a part of MCU.
That's what they said, but Marvel always changes things. They lie.
Why do you feel like they lie?
Easier. I'm gonna make your life easier.
Why did they lie? Because before they got the rights to Spider-Man, they said the little boy in Iron Man 3 was Peter Parker. Even though he didn't live in Queens, he lived somewhere in the middle of the country. They said
I don't remember them saying that.
Yes, they did. And then
no, I think they were talking about the little boy close to the end of the movie where he had the mask on, the Captain America mask, and he held it up, and then Tony came
he's
Iron Man 2?
No.
He's right. The Marvel fan base were saying that, and I agree with James, and I want to give it to James quote here.
Marvel fan base. That's not Marvel.
No. Marvel went with it because they didn't have remember, Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. So before they even made that deal or that was even coming up, I'm dead serious. The Marvel went along with that thread that yes, that's supposed to be Peter Parker. It's only after that they got the rights to Peter Parker and Spider-Man that they retconned and said no, that wasn't Peter Parker at all. That's why they had to shoehorn them in at the end of the ending. That's the truth.
Thank you. I can see them trying to cater to their fan base, but they didn't go into the movie. They didn't make the movie with the explicit purpose of that character being Peter Parker. So I'm not going to go with them.
I'll give you another example. Do you want another example before I get to Chrissy's point? I'll give you another example. In the last movie, Shaft said, I lost my eye because I trusted somebody, right? We know that that's not true because in Captain Marvel, a cat that he was warned about.
He trusted Captain Marvel. She was like, hold the cat. And the cat scratched out the eye.
They told him not to trust the cat. It's not just the cat. So we see that he was lying in that movie. Marvel lied. They lied.
That's his character. You understand?
I don't know about all that, but they definitely lied.
Do you want another example?
You know what I mean? Lies.
I'll give you another example. Doctor, I'll give you another example. In Age of Ultron, they said that Quicksilver was fast, and he got shot with a bullet.
Okay,
it's right there. It was in the script.
Let's not even go there. Okay, the Flash gets hit with a cold gun.
It was in the script.
Let's not even go there.
I'll give you another one in that same movie. The most powerful person, Vision, because he had the Mind Stone. Remember the Infinity Stone, which is more powerful than anything. He got bodied by a woman who couldn't control her powers, and she went like this. She went like this, and she had
created
she took him out.
In the MCU, she was created from the Infinity Stones, though. So
no, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. Scarlet Witch
did experiments on her and her brother to create them.
No, they were mutants, but they didn't have the rights to 20th Century Fox. That's the truth. And they were mutants.
I know what the objective is.
He was Peter Parker, but he
all right, bring it back. We like to call that segment from now on. From this point on, every time James goes on a rant, we call that segment. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. After he makes the point, this pops up.
Chrissy, to answer your question, though, I agree with Chrissy what she's saying. I don't think that they give their female characters due. I don't even think really, and I brought it up kind of with Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is one of the most powerful females, and they make her like some weakling child. I don't understand. If you had that much power, your job should be to train how to use it to be an effective a part of the team. And all Captain America does throughout the movie is, hey, you can do it. You can do it, little girl who's also a powerful, strong female example. That's why
are you sounding like that? I don't understand why you're sounding like that. All right,
that's how he talks to her, doesn't he?
It's true.
It's true.
Wait, aren't they setting up
when the general?
Hold up! It's a miracle. I think Iron Groot has something else to say.
Oh, okay.
I am Groot. Mm-hmm. Aren't they setting up? Wait, aren't they setting up the little girl from Black Marvel?
The black girl from
That's
Marvel.
her name. That's her name.
The little girl from Captain Marvel to be like no. Aren't they setting up the little girl from Captain Marvel to be in some kind of spaceship and be some kind of new?
Are they? I haven't heard.
That character?
Isn't she gonna do something in space that that's a setup? I know that's a setup to something.
Do they have the right
girl in Captain Marvel?
Stop, Jim. The only character they do not have the rights to, actually, they have all of them now. They have all the rights, every single one of them.
Yep.
What is she gonna be? I know that she's gonna do something.
Is it speculation or is it?
They still don't have the rights to Spider-Man. Technically, they still don't
have the rights to Spider-Man.
If Sony makes one more movie, they'll have the rights. Believe me, they'll have the rights. If Sony makes one more movie, if they make one more Men in Black movies, Marvel will have the rights to Spider-Man, guaranteed. I promise you, Vic. I promise you, he's coming home.
Did you see Men in Black? Because we have to review that. Actually, we have to review Men in Black. Did you see it?
International?
Yeah. The new one?
No.
The one that came out last.
Yeah, because it was Thor and Valkyrie, so it was weird.
No, it was Chris Hemsworth and no. It was a decent movie. And we're going to review it right here on
What is the definition of
your word for it? I'll sit out.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't as bad as people make it seem, but it wasn't a good movie.
Good and bad?
It was better than Men in Black 3. It was better than Men in Black 3.
False.
False. All right, well.
False.
All right, well, back to the movie. So
on the tables of Dynasty, I say false. Chris, decent is in the middle between good and bad. Decent, right there in the middle. It's not worth $12. I'll wait on that one. To Chrissy's point, Chrissy, let me show you respect and answer your question. I've been trying to get to it, but Chris is disrespectful. Marvel consistently, I agree with you consistently, and this is what I've been harping about, and why I was so happy with what they gave Scarlett Johansson's character in Winter Soldier, because she was actually given something to do. She actually had skills and talent, and I believed it, as opposed to in Iron Man 2 when she's boxing an overweight man. Okay, and what? In this one, Gamora, more to that point, yes, she's an assassin, and I agree with you with your statement about that. But I think she's believable and she looks capable. You know what I mean? I don't know how long she trained to do that and everything like that, but I believe that she could actually take some of them out. I never thought that she's just going over choreographed moves and everything like that. I thought that was great. But to your point, I don't think that they have a lot of strong female characters, but not the way they portray them.
Yeah,
and that's in the script.
In the comics, their characters are supremely powerful. Like even in the comics, Black Widow is way more skillful.
Yes,
than she is, and I think to their point, they're probably going to fix that. Or at least they might be fixing that with her solo movie. because she's going up against Taskmaster, who's definitely that's a A1 villain. So maybe they're going to fix it in that one. We'll see, when that comes out. But I agree with you. The female characters in lots of movies, superhero movies, have definitely.
Oh, look, Chrissy. All right.
Have definitely been.
And I agree with Rashad to his point. And you can see Black Widow's skills that she's always had in the movies, even though we've never seen them, for the low price of $14.95. And if you want to see it in IMAX and 3D, you can see it for $29.95 when movie theaters open up again. But she's always had those abilities, right, Rashad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Always.
Even in the past, even though in the future she doesn't show it.
All right. What's the next scene of this movie? Because I feel like we haven't even got to a third of the movie.
Oh, we're there.
No, we haven't.
So this is the rap sheet sequence when we see a little back history of all the different characters. Some of the things we see is for Gamora, it's the last survivor of the Zerubbabel people, which I was confused about because in Infinity War, Thanos doesn't kill all her people.
No, it's only half.
It's only half. That's his whole thing.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
But Vic, who's run away, he said that Marvel.
No, he's right there. That's him.
Oh,
he's
Groot.
He's
the plant. I forgot. Yeah. So he can't explain it any way that I understand because Chris, cue the.
It makes
because it makes zero sense. Thank you. But Gamora in this movie, which predates Infinity War, and the Russo brothers could have easily watched this movie. It says she's the last survivor of the Zerubbabel people. I was confused because on screen she wasn't the last survivor.
Well, they could have the wrong information. I mean, not everybody knows everything.
Marvel eyes.
That's true. I don't know
the benefit of the doubt
because who should I believe? The Nova Corps, who are said that they can contain an Infinity Stone. They have technology up the wazoo. They captured all the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they know all the information in rap sheets, including on this Terran. But I don't know who I should believe. The Russos or them. You're right, Rashad. Anyway, subject 89P13, aka Rocket, origin from Half-World. Okay. Then we have the Kyla. Then we have Peter's first time locked up. You know what I mean? And Groot. They don't know what to make of Groot. And in the movie, we don't actually see Drax's rap sheet. That was only in a promo.
It's here a little, but you gotta zoom in to see it.
That's from a promo. That wasn't shot in the movie though, because remember,
he was already in there.
Yeah, he was already in the prison in the kiln. Okay, so anyway, they're delivered to the kiln, and we see Rocket from the start. He says, "I don't care who you are; it doesn't really matter." And we see in his rap sheet, he's broken out several times. Right? Hey, Groot, you got some foliage on you?
I am Groot.
There you go. And he says, "I'm gonna break out of here in no time. I'm going to take you, Quill, because you're worth 40,000. You know what I mean? And then at that point, it's when Gamora says, reveals that she had a buyer and they can get $4 billion for that war. Okay.
$4 billion.
So exactly. So they agree to team up.
I mean, money will do that.
$4 billion will do that. I'll at least consider wearing a red cap. Okay. I'll consider it. No pictures, but I'll consider it. Okay. No, anyway, so after they save Gamora, this is when she reveals it, and we see them start to come together, to work together. Again, it's each of them for their own self-interest, right? And primarily for the $4 billion, right? And Gamora wants a way out of that lifestyle, and we see that she regrets a lot of the stuff she did, but she had to do it. That's who she was trained to be. We have the introduction of Drax for the first time, who we learned his family was killed by Ronan, his wife and his daughter, and he wants revenge, and he can't get to Ronan right now, so he wants revenge on Gamora, and he's going to stay by her side until he gets revenge on Ronan, and if he doesn't, he's going to kill Gamora.
Yeah, okay? He's the only one not in it for the money.
Exactly. He's literally in it for the honor. And Groot, we don't know because we don't understand. Vic,
Groot's in it for the money.
Groot's in it for the money too. And when they say, a bunch of times when they say, we'll split it 3 ways, Groot's like, I'm here. I'm not just a house plant.
Is that what he said?
Fertilizer costs money.
Yeah, even Rocket was like sleep for the action and wait for the money and stuff. Every time they talk about the money.
Wow, I didn't know Groot said all that. That's a direct quote.
That's a direct quote.
It's a lot in 3 words, right?
You got to put your translation joint on there.
That's true.
If you had the caption while you were watching it, on the DVD special, you would have seen that.
I need to put the subtitles up, you know?
Yes.
So anyway, Rocket formulates a plan, and some comedy we see, and comedy's already been throughout this movie, you know, but we see that Rocket says, okay, I need this from this person, I need you to do that, I need you to do that. And remember, the last thing to do is pull this little thing, because once you do that, the alarms go off, and we have 30 seconds to get to where we need to be. Of course, Drew only listens to the first part. He's pulled it, and Drax just watches him do it. Okay. And so all hell breaks loose. Quill's going after the leg. Gamora goes to get the armband to operate the doors and everything like that. Groot has already done his part by pulling the battery, and they finally make their way through deals and negotiations. And I'm gonna take your arm off if you don't give me this comm badge thing. And they find themselves in the officers' watchtower, whatever you want to call it. And so it's not working. And Rocket, we see that he's a genius with the computers, and he's punching in the things. It's not working. The CEOs come in there, they're blasting a hole. They've already cracked the hole in the thing, and they're going to take him out. And Rocket, at the last minute, he punches the thing, the button, and gravity goes off everywhere except in that officer's deck, right? And they have these security drones that are on thrusters, and he uses them to hoist up the CO office that they're in and fly them through to the door, and that's how they make their escape. Quill, he realizes as they're making their way to the Milano, he realizes, wait, I don't have, because they all get their gear from the lockers, and he realizes my Walkman is not here. The Walkman is a gift that his mom gave him. So he says, Gamora, here, you take the orb, you go to the Milano, wait for me, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And again, to Rashad's point, we see that Quill can handle himself. I mean, we see the emotional attachment that he has to his mom, because he's willing to risk recapture just to get this Walkman, right? Rocket is like, what the heck is this Terran doing? You have the orb, Gamora, we got to get out of here. They're going to capture us again. She's like, yeah, I got it, let's go. And we see that Quill is quick with the hands because he's already switched it, and he's laughing about it as he bonks that guy that he told he was going to get in the beginning when they first got to the kiln. He hits him over the head, gets a thing, and Drax looks out the window, and he sees this angel. As he's flying, you know, and we have this looking shot, this cool shot of him on thrusters as he flies to the Milano, and they take off heading nowhere. Okay, anybody have anything to say about this?
So going back to the prison break scene, it's also a great background, or I guess further development of the character for Rocket. You know, as he gets the parts, you know, he's putting them together, like not even looking. It's just like an instinct for him. He's putting them together. And then also, you know, when Groot's making the mayhem, he's like, what am I going to do? You know, I don't have my gear. And then Drax throws him the gun, and it's like, it's almost orgasmic. The gun in his hand. It's like, this is his element. You know, you really see that throughout the movie, where technology and firepower, that's what he's all about. And they really showcase it.
Now, what is up with the similarities between him and that other? I don't know. I'm not a gamer, but I distinctly remember like there was like some raccoon or some fox game.
Star Fox.
Like a thing with a gun. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
Star Fox.
I mean, Star Fox is one.
Was he designed after Star Fox? Or Star Fox is like kind of designed after him? Because they have a lot of similarities.
I don't know. I think, I'm not being funny, I think one is just after Fox and the other one after the raccoon. But I don't know what the inspiration, you know, because I don't know when Guardians was made, in the 70s or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Guardians came out before Star Fox.
Oh, okay, so Star Fox kind of pulled from them.
But possibly. The Star Fox ship kind of looks like those Xandorian fighters, though.
That is definitely
they have the wings come out. You know what I mean? It looks
making the connections here. There's Star Trek, Star Fox.
Especially that 64 Star Fox. It looked very reminiscent of that.
Do a barrel roll.
Yeah. By the way, just all
right, I'm sorry, I had to come back because I heard some more blasphemy. I don't know what is going on with you tonight, Chrissy. You're going to stop that, all right? You're going to stop that.
We just acknowledged that there was...
No, it's not. I don't want to hear that.
I just said, no, never once did I say it was the same. I said they were similar, so somebody pulled inspiration from the other.
There ain't nothing similar. Star Fox is on the lead.
They just acknowledged that they have very similar spaceships, and obviously they have interest in weaponry.
during my absence, you gave them the same type of drugs you're on? Because you're over here. The only thing that seeing stars around here seem to be the three of y'all. If y'all think Groot, what do you think, Groot?
I'm sorry, I got work crap, but I got distracted by work crap. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
It's all good.
But we were talking about. Wait, we were talking about the.
How about we talking? You catch up. How about that? Before you even try, you start talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Let's go ahead and go back to that.
No, man. I'm sorry. I had to look up a name on a lease, and
you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to explain yourself.
What scene are we on now that we are all in agreement?
Professions that I know people.
We're on the prison break.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes
I
get distracted because somebody calls for
pizza. Wait. We definitely are on the prison break.
We're after the prison break.
We're going
okay. No, because I wanted to.
So in answer to your question, we're definitely not on the prison break.
Okay. Well, no, I just wanted to mention how I loved how Groot just pulled the thing. When
and I gave shine to Groot too. You missed all of that. I literally did.
You missed it. You missed it. Next time, say I am Groot. Maybe you'll hear it. All right.
So they're
you know what? You know what? I'm just gonna go back to this. Okay.
No. Come on.
No. I want you to do that until the end of the movie, and then we'll never see you again because they're going to replace you. All right. So go ahead. Go ahead.
So the Milano is on their way.
It's mission plant, as far as I'm concerned.
So the Milano's on their way to nowhere, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is the first time that the entire team, the entire Guardians are together. They're not the Guardians yet, but the team is assembled, right? And again, each of them has their own reason for doing so, right?
So what was Uhura's reason?
Say that again?
What was Lieutenant? I'm joking. Go ahead, bro.
I thought I heard you say Uhura, but I was like, come on.
I was trying to jump ahead of Chrissy. My fault. Go ahead.
Uhura is Gamora. That's what he's talking. Yeah,
that was a nice rhyme. I saw what you did there. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so
you did not have a future on 8 Mile.
So they're on their way to nowhere, and then upon arrival, they see the giant skull, right? Mm-hmm. And Gamora is the one to give them the backstory, at least what she knows, right? And she said it's from an ancient being known as a celestial, right? And hundreds of years ago, the Tavan Corporation started mining out the spinal fluid, the brain, and everything they could get their hands on, because apparently celestial organic material is very powerful. We know some of it is name dropped that it could be used as fuel, it could be used as different power sources, and it's highly viable, but it's highly dangerous because I guess of the volatility, or it could be powerful. So it could be like a bomb at any instant if you don't do it right, So only outlaws and criminals do it because it's illegal, but it's dangerous at the same time, but it's profitable. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're going there and they wait at this bar, this gambling spot, while they're waiting for while they're waiting for the collector's assistant to come and get them so that they can sell the orb to the collector. Because as we find out, the person who Gamora was trying to steal the orb for and sell it to was the collector, who we saw the last time in Thor: The Dark World. Okay. And if you remember in Thor: The Dark World, the Asgardians, because they already had the Tesseract on Asgard, right? They didn't think it was safe to keep 2 Infinity Stones in Asgard because it would make Asgard a target. So they left one with the collector. And he said only 6, and he said only 5 more to go. And here he potentially has, for those who have seen the movie already, 2, okay? Or, right? For $4 billion, he's willing to spend. So you see the value of this, right? And while they're at the bar, we see them let loose for the first time. Rocket, Groot, and Drax are having fun. Drax is actually loosened up a little bit. He's drunk. They're betting on some kind of rat race to death or something, whatever that is, you know what I mean? Alien rat race or whatever. The same creature that we saw in Morag, and they're being gobbled by the iguana creature or something like that. And outside on the balcony, we have Gamora and Quill. And Gamora is giving back her backstory to Quill and to the audience, saying that Thanos isn't really her father. Her father was killed. She was raised by Thanos, who tortured her, And that's what she knows. That's why she's a trained assassin. That's why she has this hard exterior, but she doesn't want that life. That's what she's running away from. Quill, who lets down his mask for a little bit, says, she asks him, why do you always carry around this Walkman? He said, it's the last thing that my mother gave me. She would make these tapes of pop songs that she liked when she was a little kid. And it's one of the last things I have from her before, and he can't bring himself to say before she passed, right? Because again, he's still tethered to that moment. And he decides to share what is intimate and personal with him, for him, or to him with her, right? Did I say that right? He shares something personal to him with her. And she listens to the music and she's able to appreciate that. How she knows how to sway like a human, I don't know, but she does, right?
The music will take you.
Yeah, the music will take you, right? And she's enjoying the thing, and she thinks that he's trying to just seduce her to get an upper hand on her because that's her training, because that's what she would do, a la how we saw what she did to him to distract him when she stole the orb from him in the first place on Xandar. And she holds a knife at his throat. She doesn't slit it because, lo and behold, Rocket is fighting with Drax and in the gambling place. And they go in there, and Rocket pulls out like this 4-barrel blaster or whatever like that. And he says, I will kill you and everybody else. You know, I'm tired of being disrespected. Because something that should be said, when they arrive to nowhere, Gamora snidely says, be careful, rodent, what you're doing there, because there are no rules. Right?
Yeah.
And Drax, according to Rocket, says that he called him vermin, which we hear him say again. And to Rashad's point, even though this man is probably the smartest out of all, well, he's not a man, but even though this Rocket is the smartest out of all of them, no one gives him credit and sees him as an equal. And again, we see this a few.
They probably should have made him a woman in the Marvel Universe, because that's exactly what they do with everybody else.
No, but he has skills and talents.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what they do. That's what they do. That isn't a kick to women. That's a kick to Marvel.
That's a kick to Marvel, yeah.
Credit.
Yeah. And so even the Collector, he disrespects him to his face, and Quill tries to interject on that one, right?
But he doesn't even know that he's a raccoon.
They think of him. There's no such thing as a raccoon where they're from, but he says it's similar to a raccoon. You know, for us, it's similar to a raccoon. But they call him a creature, like he's an animal. They call him a lesser life form throughout the movie, even though.
I mean, raccoons are lesser life forms to us.
It doesn't make sense.
Only because they are intellectually inferior, but he's superior to any of us. If he were real, he would be superior intellectually to any of us. Remember, when he's on Earth in Infinity War, he puts Tony Stark in his place. He says, yeah, why don't you do it? Because you've had experience with alien technology. And even Tony has to say, shut up, because Rocket is the most skilled person. He's the one who actually puts together the gauntlet. You know what I mean? So in this movie, we see what the mask slips from Rocket now. Okay, we've seen the mask slip from Gamora. We've seen the mask slip from Quill. We've seen the mask slip from Drax, or where we start to see it slip from Drax, and we see it slip from Raccoon now, right? Or from Rocket. Anyway, he says you got
Raccoon
4 billion.
Late, but you got it.
So Quill says, hey, calm down. It's only a few more minutes and we are 4 billion credits richer, right? And just as that moment, Karina comes in the door and she says, my master would like to see you. And they make their way to the Collector's Museum. And the Collector, who is on the trippiest acid known to man, okay? He's orgasming throughout every scene he's in. He sees Groot, he orgasms. He sees the Infinity Stone, he orgasms twice. All right. So he's like, ooh, he's shaking, he's shivering, he's having a great time. And he wants to buy even Groot's carcass, whatever, for after he dies, right? And it's the Collector who actually gives the audience and the Guardians the full story of what these stones are. Right, and he says, and he breaks it down. In the beginning, there were 6 singularities or peculiarities or objects, right? And we know that power, the ether. I don't know exactly what the ether is supposed to do. The control the mind, the soul, time, and I forget what the other one is, right? And he says, and then the universe burst into being, right? And so all of those things, time, power, the mind, the soul. They got concentrated together into these stones, into these ingots, he calls them, right? The Infinity Stones. And over time, people realized that only the most powerful people could wield them, right? And again, we have a picture of what looks like a giant. We know that the audience knows that it's a celestial, and he's holding the staff, and he's holding the power stone, which is in the orb, as he's using these lasers to unlock the orb, like the puzzle box from Hellraiser, right?
I thought you were mimicking Scarlet Witch as she was
No,
bodying
Scarlet Witch is like this. She always goes like this. The
Okay.
orb thing is like that, but Scarlet Witch is like this.
So she's out of the way. She's making a clay monster. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he only the most powerful can wield it, and if you even touch the ground, it could decimate all of life on a planet, right? And that's what we see in the flashback. And he says, once upon a time, a group of 6 individuals or 5 individuals, they tried to collectively hold the power of it, and for a time they were able to, but then even that consumed them, right? We don't know what the collector wants to do with them, how he plans to wield it, but he just wants it, right? Rocket, he doesn't care at all. He says, "Ooh," and he starts mimicking him, and he says, "Look, Whitey, I just want the money." And so the display screens go off, and he says, "How do you want to get paid?" And he says,
That's what he said. That's what he said.
Credits.
That is a classic look, and that's going into the Instagram.
And so
That's
he's
what he he's still talking. All right, go ahead.
No, my power stone had a surge, right? So anyway, he says he wants credits, and he goes into his drawer and he pulls out these Chrissy, you're gonna love this. He pulls out his gold-plated latinum out the desk. Christy,
call him Republic.
She don't get that. She don't get that reference.
She doesn't get that. Anyway,
it's a true Star Trek reference, so she don't get it. She gets the.
Oh no, I've never said I was a Trekkie. I just said these movies are similar. That's all.
Oh, okay.
You need to watch a good Star Trek movie, a good one.
Well, as Watto says, he pulls out Republic credits are no good here, and out the drawer. Karina, who's been watching this whole thing, but hasn't been listening, gets closer and closer and closer. And Tanalier, who's the collector, that's his name, he looks up at the last minute. He's like, "Yo, B, what are you doing? Don't touch that." No, not.
She said she's tired of being his slave. That's it.
And she says, "I'm not going to be your slave anymore," because we see earlier that he just treats them like dogs. He has one actually in that same scene. He has one in a cage. We don't know what she did. She probably didn't clean the glass right, because that's what he threatened Serena with. And he just has these slave women all over, and she touches it because she wants to kill him, which I can understand, right? And she's consumed by it, and it starts to eat her alive or implode her. I don't know what it's doing, but it's consuming her, and her flesh is like flaking off, like as power is just coursing through her body. Gamora dive bombs Quill and throws him to the ground to cover him. Rocket jumps to the ground. The collector is blown back into his desk. The glasses shatter. All his collection is destroyed and everything like that. I'm sorry, I'm reading these comments. And we see that Groot.
The Rock's #1 fan. He loves The Rock.
We see Groot picks up Rocket and runs out of the collector's museum, and Quill and Gamora get up after the explosion is over and everything like that. And they
were completely fine, by the way.
Out of their mind. Even when the collector's telling what the Power Stone can do, Quill says a little pee is coming out of me, because I had no idea. I thought it was just a silver ball or whatever like that, right? So Gamora she puts it back into the orb, and she says, I don't know what I was thinking that he could contain it. Maybe if we give it to the Nova Corps, they can do something with it, because remember, we know that they're powerful because they were able to hold off the Kree Empire for 1,000 years. So maybe they can keep it safe, right? She just wants to keep it safe. Quill was like, or we could find a good person who doesn't want to destroy the universe and give it to them, and hopefully they pay us, right? Gamora is disgusted at him because she thinks he gets it. Rocket is like, why do you still have that? And you're carrying it around. You have it in your backpack, which he calls a purse. Let's get out of here, right? Well, come to find out, while they were doing all that, Drax, in his drunken state, had made somebody call Ronan and tell them exactly where they were. At this point, Ronan drops down. Yondu drops down. And
very unexpected.
So yeah, he called Ronan to nowhere. You see, like his big ship comes down into the screen, and Drax is ready for war. He pulled out his little knives and stuff, was really like to try to take him out, right? And the other people are just so shocked that Drax would like even call the dudes over to even tell them their location. So what is that?
Help! Why is he saying help? What's wrong with his stuff?
His Wi-Fi.
Oh.
He's asking whatever his internet service provider, which clearly is not Verizon, for help.
So Ronan comes on the planet. They start fighting.
I will never put a comment you put up again. I swear. Don't ever say that. Do not ever say that.
See? I told you somebody would defend me. Somebody would defend me in these comments.
I told you it was going to be Ricky, right? That's exactly what the hell I said.
So that was the point where Ronan comes down to nowhere. He comes off the ship, and him and Drax start fighting. Go ahead. Unexpected.
Actually, hold up. Is that the end of the scene?
No, it's the beginning of the scene, Chris.
How far are we away from the end of the movie?
Very.
Halfway. This is like 2/3 of the movie already.
I heard very far, and I heard 2/3 of the movie. I'm a little scared. Finish up the scene because we got to play a commercial.
All right. So anyway, I'm gonna jump around. So Drax is fighting, as Christian says. Drax is fighting Ronan. Ronan is easily handling him. Yondu is chasing Quill because he wants the orb, and Quill double crossed him. Nebula is chasing Gamora because Gamora has the orb, and basically Quill is working with Rocket, and they realize that these are mining ships, and they jump in the mining ships, and the mining ships are durable, so they crash them in, and they use them actually as ammunition themselves, and they crash into the Ronin ships, right? Gamora goes she flies out of the eye of the Celestial, out of nowhere, because the Celestial is called Nowhere, into open space, and Nebula, who just wants to kill Gamora, and she says something before she kills her. She says, "Out of all our siblings, I hated you the least." That's as close as she comes to saying, "I kind of liked you, but I'm jealous of you," because that's what Nebula's arc in this movie is. And then the next one, and she blasts the mining ship that Gamora was in, and Gamora is in open space. And we see, and by the way, when they did the rap sheet, we see that Gamora is enhanced cybernetically, so she has enhanced lungs and respirators. That's why she's able to last in space as long as she does. But her skin still begins to turn to ice because it's open space. And Rocket and Quill are there, and Rocket says, "Come on, let's go." Her body will keep her alive for a few minutes, but if we stay here in these mining ships, we'll die too. Quill is put into a dilemma, and we have one of the many hero moments, but I'm going to highlight this. And Quill is literally there, and he hesitates, and he's reluctant to do it because he knows it possibly could mean his death. He gets on the comm, and he says, "Hey, Yondu, this is where I'm at. You want me? Come and get me." And he doesn't know if Yondu got it, if Yondu's alive, if Yondu will make it in time, but he flies out of his ship. Rocket is like, "What the hell are you doing? You won't last seconds out there." And he takes the little piece that he has to create the visor, and he puts it on Gamora so that she's alive. And we see how quickly, because he doesn't have those cybernetic things, his body starts to freeze, and his eyes are turning bloodshot red because the capillaries in his eyes are bursting. Literally, that's what's happening because he's being asphyxiated. And we see this light from Yondu's ship, and they're pulled into the tracking beam at the last moment before he's literally dead. And they're pulled aboard, and we see Quill is gasping for air because he's pulled back into somewhat atmosphere. And he has a genuine moment in the arms of Gamora. And Gamora is actually touched by that he would be honorable and do that, because we see earlier that she responds to honor. And then he can't help himself. He goes back to trying to seduce her. You know what I mean? She says, "You're full of shit. Where's the orb?" And he says, "Well, actually, Ronan has it." And she's like, "Are you serious?" End of scene. Chris, do you want to go to commercial break?
Yeah, we're going to be right back with more Guardians of the Galaxy, and I am Groot.
I am Groot.
Thank you. I was waiting for it. I don't know what took you so long. You just so enthralled with it.
Do you want to show your love for the UPR universe? Or do you just want to show your love for Yep, I Like Wrestling? If you want to support these guys, go to ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can get shirt and a lot of other merch.
another episode of Popular Reviews Entertainment, talking about Twilight Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Myself, Steve Superior, Katrina Storm, as well as probably a special guest on that one. We're back here talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'm sorry, 1. I'm over here thinking I'm Vic, who decided to go and take a Groot. So go ahead, James. Let's talk about the next scene of this movie.
All right, so Nebula lands down on nowhere. She says, "Come on, Ronan, I've got the orb. It's done." And Ronan throws
Yeah, I agree.
Drax into the spinal fluid, I guess that is, with that fuel, and Drax drowns. He's drowning, and they leave and they head to Xandar, right? Aboard, he's taken out of the water by Groot. Groot punches him in the heart, I guess, or his lung, and he expels that fluid that he's been sucking up. Rocket goes into Drax and he says, "You were selfish. Everybody's lost somebody." And we see the mask slip from Rocket again. Everybody's lost somebody. And Drax actually says, "You're right. I was just mourning my wife and my daughter. I pretend that everything's okay, but really it's not. And I'm hurting." And we see finally the mask has dropped from Drax, who has been very stoic and straight to the point. You know what I mean? And Groot, we see again, start to see the humanity, if you will, in Groot. And he, for the first time, asserts himself with Rocket. And he says, "You're doing too much. You know what I mean? You know, you're going overboard with talking to Drax. Have some compassion." And Rocket says, if we go now, we can get to the other side of the universe, and we could probably live full lives before Ronan gets to us, okay? Because he's going to destroy everything. And Drax says, and Groot says, "No, we should help them." And he says, "You crazy? What are we going to do?" Drax says, "I think we should help them," and they agree. And then Rocket reluctantly, he's like, "I can't believe y'all being so stupid," but he reluctantly goes with them. He still hasn't made his decision yet, but Drax and Groot have. And then we are aboard the Ravager ship with Yondu, and he's slapping around and punching Quill. And we see I don't want to say father figure type, but we see more of the older brother, because again, Yondu was not responsible. He wasn't a father, he wasn't a dad to him, but he was like an older brother. He did look out for him. He taught him what he knew. You know what I mean? It's almost like both of them were lost boys, you know. And so he's slapping him around, and he says, "I taught you better than this." And it's not like he wants to hurt him, but he has to do it because he's the captain. He's in front of his men. If he doesn't do it, he'll lose his power. That's the way of the Ravagers. Quill knew that. You put me in this position. I'm mad at you more for putting me in this position. It didn't have to be this way. You know what I mean? And Quill, again, thinking on his feet, he says, hey, because Yondu calls out the arrow and it's at Quill's throat. And he says, "Listen, we can make a lot of money, and you can get paid back. You can still get the orb, and we can still do the right thing, right?" And so he says, "Let me go talk to my people. We had this plan and everything like that." And just then somebody's firing on the ship, and we see that it's Rocket and the Milano. And they say, "I have this new weapon. This maniac on top of the ship will destroy your ship if you don't let our friends go in 5 seconds." And then he says, yo, what are you doing? And so they're aboard the Milano, and they're talking. And this is the first time that we really have the assembly of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And we have Quill, we have Drax, we have Gamora, we have Rocket, and we have Groot. And they're all discussing. And again, they're bickering back and forth. They're thinking as individuals still. And Quill says, "Guys, listen, none of that is important. What's important now is Yondu thinks that we have a plan."
Not enough.
2 seconds.
And we're happy about that.
And in 2 seconds, I'm not even going to touch that. In 2 seconds, Yondu's going to come down here. He's going to want to know the plan. We need to come up with something. We have to work together, right? And basically, Gamora starts it off, and she says, "Listen, I've been an assassin all my life." You know what I mean? And because they realize if they go after Ronan, he has this power stone. He can decimate the entire planet if he just touches the ground, right? And they say, "Going after him is suicide." That's what Rocket says. And Gamora says, "I've been an assassin all my life, a killer. If I die doing the right thing or doing something to save lives, I'm okay with that." Drax says, "Quill, I see that you're an honorable man. You know what I mean? I will fight by your side." and then I'll be with my wife and daughter, which I thought was a great line. Drax has some great lines in this movie. I think somebody said it, he made this movie. Drax really did make this movie. He had some great lines, and a lot of what he said was prescient. That line really got to me. He says, "I will gladly fight by your side, and then I will be with my wife and my daughter." Meaning, I know I'm going to die too, but that's okay. You have honor, and I'm going to fight by your side. Groot says, "I'm Groot," and we know that means, because we had the translation, that I'm the right? And then Rocket says reluctantly, "All right, I'm standing up too. Yeah, I'll do it too." Right? And we have the assembly of the titular Guardians of the Galaxy. Anybody have anything to say with that?
Yeah, to answer Ricky's question here, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes out in the year 2022, and yes, Batista is in it.
They brought back the director.
Correct.
Yeah, James Gunn.
They decided that. Well, I'm not a big fan of Drax, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Why? I think they kind of dumbed down his character. Well, not necessarily dumbed down, but they depower him. Because from what I heard from another show I used to watch, wasn't he kind of created to take on Thanos like single-handedly or something like that?
They gave a lot of his power to Captain America. I couldn't.
I guess.
Going into this movie, I didn't know much about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Don't do that.
I will say that I don't think it's necessarily just Drax that makes this movie. I think the dynamic of all of them together, this is a really good team movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the dynamic with all of them working together, you know, of course, everyone has their own individual personalities, but then when they come together, of course, those are going to have some friction, but they still come together as a unit eventually. And, you know, I think it's a really good dynamic. I think everyone in this movie played a great part, even with the I am Groots. I mean, it's simple, 3 of the words, you know, all in the same form, all in the same row at the same time, always, except for at the end. But I think having them all together in this movie, you know, it definitely worked.
No, I agree with you, Rashad. The reason I said Drax for me made this movie, I don't mean he was the end all, but I like quotes in movies a lot. You know, Chris, you'll have my back on this part at least, even though I know
I'm with you there too.
What I mean by that is he had some of the great lines in this movie. To me, I love honor in film. So when he said that, it was like some gladiator moment. He says, "You have honor. That's why I'm going to fight by your side. And I know we're going to die. And I'm going to get my wish. I'm going to be reunited with my wife and daughter." You know what I mean? I like that. When that sequence later that we're going to get to, when they get on the Dark Aster and they're walking through, and he says, "Quill, you're my friend. You know, this dumb tree, you're my friend, and this green whore." You know what I mean? You know,
the other part I do like about Drax too, like there's some range with the humor.
Yes.
Like back in the prison scene, I didn't get really talk about it, but when they were in that watchtower, and Rocket's like, you know, they're literal. Everything, any type of any windows you say are going to go over his head. He's like, nothing goes over my head.
I'm too quick. I'd catch it.
I would catch it. Yeah. You know, he does have some really great lines in there.
I like that. But again, I agree with you completely. I think you're absolutely right. The dynamic of these people, and what made it for me was I didn't know anything about these characters. Like I said, I'm an X-Men person as far as Marvel goes. You know what I mean? And for me to come in blind to the character backgrounds and everything like that, to get the development in one movie alone, you know what I mean? To have it flushed out where every question that they raised, they answered it, with the exception of a teaser at the end for the next movie. They answered in the same film. I care about these people. Your point with Groot at the end when he says, "We are Groot." And I said, "Oh, I understood that completely." And I'm feeling something emotionally when I normally don't feel anything emotionally. You know, it just spoke to me. You know what I mean? It's a great movie. I like that. You know? I really did.
Captain America did not get Drax's powers.
Yes, he did, because he jumped off of 295 and his legs didn't hurt at all.
You're fine. That's all that matters.
He jumped from a jet into the ocean going 70 plus miles an hour.
To get away from
a woman. Shield though?
Yeah, he had the shield though. It
still helps.
But he didn't use the shield to
I think he's frozen.
Like break his fall.
Yeah, he's frozen.
He didn't use his shield to break his fall. He definitely just went feet first.
Yeah, he
in the
went
ocean, but
his legs should have broken His leg should have broken. His lungs should have collapsed. But no, he got up and then he started kicking people across the deck of a ship. How is he doing that? He has no superpowers. Bucky has a metal arm, but he's moving faster than Captain America. It makes no sense.
Didn't they put the radiation on Bucky too?
Hold on, we hold on. Somebody left a comment, Chris. What did it say right there? It made 0 sense. It doesn't make any sense. Drax gave his power. Okay.
So what part of the movie? We're on the part where they all meet up before the final fight, right?
No, Quinn. He tells the plan to Yondu. The Ravagers. They all know what their jobs are going to be when they get to Xandar. Yondu pulls Quill aside. He says, "Listen, when we get there, remember that orb is mine at the end of it. Okay, don't double cross me. I'm not playing with you anymore." Right? We see it cuts to at Xandar Prime, and we see the same man that we saw. I forget his name, how to say his name, but he was one of the officers that was arresting Quill. And then because he recognized Star-Lord, and he says, "Hey, it's you. It's Star Prince, right?" And, and he's like, "Man, it's Star-Lord." He said, "It's okay. You got a code name. It's cool. Code names are cool, right?" Well, we see that Quill left him a message, right? Because again, the movie is calling back to itself. He would know who he was, right? And he was a fair guy. And he leaves him a message, and he says, "Listen, Ronan is on his way. He has an Infinity Stone." And we see when he talks to Nova Prime that not everybody knows what an Infinity Stone is, because this officer in the Nova Corps, he says, Ronan has something called an Infinity Stone. That's right, Stephen. He took it. You want to know why? Because colored people shouldn't have fancy things. That's why he took it. So I say touche to that. Colored people didn't have stuff like that in the 40s where he's from, and they're not going to have it in the 2000s. Not while he's here. So,
but colored men can have him. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Your Wi-Fi on ice.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. Okay. He took that Tesseract and he blacked. Anyway, so he tells Nova Prime, they believe him, they assemble their crew, and they start to evacuate the city, right? We see the Dark Aster, it arrives there, and the Ravagers come and they shoot these fire bombs or whatever that is, so that they can see where the shield is. And because he put the shield in front, I like this movie actually, because the shield doesn't go around the full ship. It's like projected to certain angles where they need it, apparently, because they dive under and where the ship is vulnerable. And then they each have their tasks that they all set aside. And Rocket, Yondu, and Quill, they're trying to blast a hole into the side of the Dark Aster to get in.
Sounds very Star Wars.
Yes. And they have a lot of nice fight sequences as far as dog fights, like Star Wars in this movie. And we talked about it earlier, the designs of the different ships and everything like that. I think they're beautiful. The Milano design of the Milano is incredible.
It's very ugly,
very bird-like. It's beautiful to me. It's a beautiful,
very unattractive. Very unattractive.
I do actually like it as well.
Thank you, Rashad.
I thought it was nice.
We all have different taste in women too, so that I find it really remarkable that you all like the ship. It was ugly.
It's kind of like that one's kind of like the design is very much like Star Wars. I feel like, because what's that little?
If you said Star Trek, Chrissy, I swear I would have been done.
No, I said Star Wars. Star Wars. Okay.
All right, just making sure.
What was that little CP3PO, but not actually him, but the new one, the little orange one? That's what the ship.
Oh, BB-8.
Is that what it's called? The little round one?
No, it's called R2D2.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not.
In the script that J.J. Abrams copied, it's called R2D2.
Oh, that's right, because it is a New Hope Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad 2 is going to be better than First Class. Certain
It's
person's
Return
going
of
to
the
be in it.
Jedi.
Who's going to be in Suicide Squad 2 that I don't remember that's going to make
The
the
same
movie
crappy
better?
one.
He's talking about the directors, the same director as Guardians of the Galaxy.
I don't think that's what he's talking about. I don't think
That's
he's
what he's
talking
talking
about.
about.
Probably a wrestler is in the movie. Let's see.
Yep.
Dark Aster was the nickname of a girl I dated in college. That's probably why you have very dark humor. All right. Let's see. Go ahead, James. Ricky, answer that question, though. I'm kind of curious.
So while they're blasting a hole, they finally crack a hole in there. Yondu's ship is hit. He falls down to the ground. He is taking out some of Ronan's ground troops.
Can I just say that Yondu has one of the coolest weapons ever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
with the whistling arrow. Mm-hmm. That is one of the coolest things ever.
That is cool.
And one of the things I think this movie doesn't get credit for is making somebody who uses arrows cool. Because every other time I've seen an arrow used on a Marvel picture,
hold on,
it's terrible.
Hold on. He should just play Hawkeye like that.
He should have. No, I didn't play him. The script played him. The script did it. I didn't do it. The script did it. He has more arrows than Legolas. Okay.
He ran out in Avengers.
Here's my question. When you stand on the ledge of a skyscraper, how come nothing blows? Your hair doesn't blow at all? The wind doesn't whip when you're that high up?
Jill, haven't you seen?
Why don't you ask somebody
that Gorilla Glue?
I would remove from
somebody who lives in New York. As somebody who lives in New York, Vic, what do you think of this?
I mean, how do you think the Fonz in Happy Days could go on motorcycles and put on helmets?
Exactly.
And not have his hair move. Like, it was
I forget the name of the show. I think it was Jersey Shore. The guy in there.
Oh, yeah, Paulie D. Look at Paulie D. He's a DJ.
Like 150 miles an hour.
Beating the beat.
On a highway, it doesn't move.
Doesn't move.
I'm sure that comes on MTV, a station I don't watch. Nor have I seen that show. I don't know who these people are.
What show are you talking about?
What, man?
Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore was VH1. I don't think it was MTV. Was it MTV?
Oh, we should cover Jersey Shore.
Who?
Who? I didn't watch that show either.
You and your plant will be the only ones covering that show. Okay, I don't think we're going to find anybody else in the group that will cover that show.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Snooki was a sensation. Snooki was even in WrestleMania. I Am Groot.
WrestleMania 27 Atlanta. I know I was there, but that doesn't mean we're going to cover the show. Let's see what we have here. I got Yondu's power because when I whistle at Las Muchachas, I slay. Okay.
Las muchachas.
All right, I'm gonna touch real quick on Yondu's power because y'all gave him credit. So when he used the power, I was like, wow, that's cool. But for y'all to sit here and say that was one of the coolest powers in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
we didn't
bullshit.
say
no. He said
what are you
saying?
Like,
he said that we like this power because before that we thought people who used arrows were terrible.
No, you said that.
That's what
you said that.
I did say that.
You said that.
You thought Hawkeye was good, Chris? Can you name the scene?
Yeah, I can name a scene. All right, I'm going to name the first scene. One of the first scenes he was in. It was in the movie Thor, right? So I was asleep, right, during the movie, and then I woke up, and Hawkeye is like, should I go ahead and should I shoot this arrow now, right? And I woke up and I saw that, and I went back to sleep. So I give you that. You're right. Hawkeye is not entertaining. He never was entertaining except for about 5 minutes, and it's just. Endgame.
Wait a minute. I gotta apologize, Vic. You're right.
Yeah, in Endgame, he was very entertaining.
Vic, you're right. I gotta apologize because in
Ricky,
Ultron.
Excuse me. James, hold up real quick, James. Ricky is trying to correct me in wrestling. Never tried to correct me in wrestling. Okay, Snooki was at WrestleMania 27. Fact check me, bitch. He was not in WrestleMania 24. He was in 27, and then apologize. All right, go ahead.
No, in Age of Ultron, Hawkeye
looks like a dude.
Hawkeye was
walks like a man.
Quicksilver because Hawkeye never got shot by anything. But Quicksilver, he got blasted away, and he was the fastest.
Quicksilver. Why do you keep bringing up Quicksilver? Let the man die.
Because he's fast.
Yes, he is. I saw him try to go up against Apocalypse. I saw him take out an entire army of police officers at the Pentagon. I saw him save a whole bunch of people from a blown up mansion. So Quicksilver is fast. So I need you to stop.
That's in 20th Century Fox. That's in 20. I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a different Quicksilver.
Yes, that's
it's the same It's all owned by Disney.
It's a different universe. It's a different universe.
No, it's not.
That's the Star Trek's Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yes, it was.
One's a prime Quicksilver. The other one is just named Quicksilver.
I can't do this with y'all anymore.
You see?
I can't do. What else is happening in this movie? Don't we at the end yet? Let's get to the final act.
Right.
Anyway, so Yondu shows us what an arrow really can do, and then we respect it.
Oh, here you go. You put that in there, didn't you?
You don't want to know? You don't want to know? Anyway, so the arrow scene in this movie was awesome, right? But in other movies, it's not. Cut to the Ronan's ships. They're dive bombing the city and everything like that. Rocket comes in. He saves some of the civilians. Luckily, it happens to be this officer's wife because we need that, right? And they're aboard the Dark Aster. They fly in there in the ship, and they're blasting the different people. They get out of the ship. Drax disrespects all of them. He calls the green whore. I thought that was hilarious, but he said it with love, so it's not mean. And then Nebula comes out. She says, "I'm going to kill you all." And he blasts her in the chest because he says, "Nobody talks to my friend." I'm going fast because you want me to hurry up and finish.
I'm Groot.
Okay. So anyway, they make their way to Ronan. They assemble this weapon. They have this weapon, and they blast Ronan in the chest with this weapon that does I don't know what, but it's supposed to be powerful because it could destroy the Ravager mothership. And Ronan just takes it. I don't know if the Power Stone saved him or what, or if it's just because he's Kree, but he gets up, he shakes it off, and they have to, they're going to try and blast him again, and that's when Rocket flies in through the window. Why they couldn't do that before, I don't know, but he flies in through the window. He kills everybody in the room except he doesn't. Because didn't he run over some people that we know?
He did hit Drax.
Yeah, he did. He ran over them
at the same time.
He ran over them. They're gone. They're gone.
Well, they're both durable.
They're gone. Yeah, very durable. that script is durable. But anyway, they move quicker than Quicksilver. You see what I did, Chris? Out the way.
It always goes back to Quicksilver, don't it, with you?
I'm gonna light that movie up. Okay.
That's in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. 2 weeks.
Be there. Okay. Guess what my name is gonna be. So, and they dive out the way. The ship is going down slowly, but it's falling. Groot, he has his hero moment, and he cocoons them in himself and uses himself to cushion their fall in the leaves, I guess. I'm not being funny. I don't know exactly what he did. And then he's crying sap. And he.
Now I know why Vic's a fan of Groot. I know it now. I don't know what I was so slow with. All right, go ahead. Vic, what kind of tree is Groot, Vic?
Huh?
What kind of tree is Groot?
Groot is actually a snake plant.
What?
I rest my case. Only he would know that shit. I call him a tree.
Talking about that Groot.
Oh, you're not talking about this Groot? Okay. Groot. Oh, regular Groot actually is all bark, so it's hard to tell. But he looks like pin oak.
Well, he saves everybody.
I want Groot to be poison ivy. That's what I want Groot to do.
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if Groot is oak because and you know not to jump movies because that's the strongest wood, and that's really one of the only things that would be able to hold.
It's not the strongest wood in this universe.
It would be able to hold Thor's thing, you know. That's the only thing that would it can't be like cherry blossom or one of those trees. You know what I mean? Something that's
an alien tree.
Are you really trying to make it make sense that Earth would hold up?
I was gonna say maybe like a hybrid between that and red oak. I mean, and yeah.
I mean, there's like 50 different types of oak. So like, you know.
Oh my God.
Especially here in New York.
He might also be a little bit pine because he grows fast. And pine is a pretty fast growing.
You guys are too much because he's an alien life form. There's no human or earthly equivalent to what the hell Groot is.
What are you talking about? He pulled out a flower. Like, here's the thing, though. I said before,
there's always the thing.
If there was a Groot, if I had like a Groot pet, oh my God, my farming would be so ill right now. Like, I would have vines.
It would be very sick. It would need help.
And it would be.
Groot is sentient, right? That would be slavery.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be.
Yes.
I mean, but he's pretty much. But I'm saying though, what about him? But he would be my boy. Like I would be like Rocket because I like technology. And
so he'll be a house. He'll be a house tree, is what you say.
Yeah, he'll be my friend, like, and I'll translate for him, like he needs a translator, like,
because
he'll be growing your crops and picking your cotton. That's what he'll be doing.
He's not allowed to read. He's not allowed to read. But you're my friend. I got you. You can.
What do you mean he's not allowed to read? He can't read. He's, you know what I mean?
No, he can't. Because look, this is my problem. Right. This was my problem with this scene. This was my problem with the scene when he said "we are Groot." So he can learn other words. He just chooses not to at this point. Because how can you go from saying "I am Groot"?
It's called New York Public Education. That's what it's called. All right, look.
In the comments,
you're gonna say that living in Florida, okay?
Chrissy, I didn't go to school down here, bro.
I didn't say that living in Florida.
Chrissy,
I didn't go to school down here.
In the comics, when they're younger saplings, I guess they would call them, they can say other words.
Shut up, Steven.
But it starts to get hoarse.
Why is this dude calling me and I'm on the air?
The only thing they can say is "I am Groot" with different intonations. That's why, as he's older, he only says that. When he says "we are Groot," it was supposed to be he said that with as much effort as possible to get it out.
Oh,
yeah.
But then when he turns into like a baby Groot in the next movie, he's not over here spitting rhymes.
That's why the second movie makes no sense because they mess up with a lot of it. The second movie is good, but they mess up with a lot of things and they play fast and loose. But in the comic, that's your explanation of why he can say "we are Groot." But it's supposed to be he's saying it with a lot of effort just to get that out to be able to say it.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's supposed to be such a hero moment. You see what I mean? Yeah.
Yep,
so anyway, they crash land on the Earth, on Xandar, on the surface, and they think that Ronan's dead, but Ronan's actually still there. And he's coming out there and he does his villain spiel. He says, "I'm gonna bathe you all in your own blood and and I'm gonna get you." And he's about to say, "Here we go," and stamp the hammer down in the ground. And Rocket looks at Quill. Rocket is already thinking ahead to Rashad's point, and he's putting together that blaster. He says, "We got to do this one more time. Don't blast him. Let's blast this hammer." Because that's where the stone is. That's where his power is anyway, right? And Quill, something I didn't get in the first movie, I kind of allow it now, having watched it like twice in the past 2 days just to get it. He does something ridiculous to throw him off. It's not that he's trying to stop him with the dance contest, and he starts dancing. Of course, Ronan wouldn't know what that is, and he's like, "Why are you doing that? What the hell is going on?" And it would stop him from doing that because Ronan is not Thanos. Thanos wouldn't give a damn what you were doing. He's going to snap his fingers. But Ronan, Ronan, to Chris's point that he loves to say, it has to make sense to Ronan. So Ronan is like, "What are you doing? I'm over here giving my villain moment. This is my time to shine, and you're taking away my shine." And then finally, Quill says, "I'm distracting you, bro." And then Rocket shoots the cannon or whatever that is. It blasts the hammer. The stone falls from it, and Quill thinks he's gonna die. Okay, so again, we have another hero moment in this movie, and he dives for the gemstone because, as we saw with Karina, when she touched it, it blew up everything around it. I'm guessing he thought it would blow up Ronan too because he didn't think he could control it, right? And it starts to eat him alive as well, and it blasts Ronan back, and he's going crazy. Gamora screams Quill's name, and she says, "Give me your hand," because again,
frequently throughout the course of the movie series.
Yes, and we saw earlier in the collector had shown them that the 6 people tried to contain it. So she does what she thinks she can do, and she says, "Give me your hand. Maybe I can help you." You know what I mean? And Drax come aboard, and he does that, and we have this whole hero moment where all of them get to shine, except for Groot, who's on the floor that they're stepping on. So he's there too. They're just stepping on him. Sorry.
He's there.
And then Rocket, he comes and he grabs somebody's pointer finger, and they're all screaming, and they're being broken apart. And I think, to Chrissy's point, what stops Quill from being utterly consumed is because, just like with the Hulk, when he put the gun in his mouth and his survival instinct kicked in, that survival instinct kicked in, and he was able to contain it, to hold it, because he gained more power and his body stopped breaking apart. And you see him actually controlling where it went, where the power of the Power Stone went, and the flame started looking at Ronan, and it evaporated him or whatever it did to him. You know what I mean? And then finally they put it back in the orb again. and Yandu comes up and he says, "Give it to me," and he says, "Okay, here, deal's a deal." And he says, "But you know you can't open this. You've seen what it can do, right? Because there was a crowd watching them. Don't open this. Get it somewhere safe. Come on." And so Yandu leaves with the rest of the Ravagers. They celebrate because they got what they got. Yandu looks good in front of his men. And Quill says he's going to be so pissed when he realizes that I switched the orbs with him, because again, we saw this earlier that he had switched the orb with Gamora, so we know that he has sleight of hand. So it's not something that they just did because they needed it to happen. They're speaking to Nova Prime now, and Nova Prime says, "Hey, we found something in your DNA that was interesting when we were processing you the first time when we arrested you." And this answers the question of how was he able to hold the Power Stone, something ancient, right, in you that we've never seen before. So it gives a plausible reason why his body didn't just rip apart like Karina's body did, like the other people that we've seen wield it, just like Ronan, because Ronan was able to hold it for a little while before he put it into his hammer. And Quill's like, "But my dad was from Earth." And he says, and they tell him, "Well, no, he's not." And this is the first time that he's hearing it. But again, they don't have any further information. So Quill's like, "Okay, interesting, but all right, I didn't know him anyway." They're told that they rebuilt their ship. They thank them. Their records have been wiped clean, but don't commit any other crimes because then you're going to be right back where you were. The Guardians have assembled. They said, "What should we do now? Should we do something good? Should we do something bad?" And then Gamora says, "You take the lead," i.e., when Iron Man said, "What's the move, Captain? You know what I mean? You're in control of the team." And he says, "Let's do a little bit of both." And they fly off to their next adventure, and that's the movie. Thoughts?
All right.
Thoughts is we're going to take one last commercial break, and then we're going to come back with our final thoughts so they can prepare to make it make sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back, and actually you get a little preview of next Saturday's movie with us.
Art imitates life as we examine a fictional love story surrounding a real-life marriage that explodes beyond the ring with tragic consequences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have reviewed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and we're about to go around and tell our final thoughts and give thumbs up and thumbs down. And, ladies first, so we're going to start with C the Superior. What are your thoughts when it comes to this movie?
My thoughts are that, again, it reminded me very much of Star Trek, or Star Trek reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy. And that even the color scheme are very similar. I don't know. But anyway, I liked it. I like the soundtrack. I like the movies. There were a couple things that I had some questions about, but you can't really be too nitpicky with an action adventure film. So I liked it. Thumbs up. Thumbs up to Star Trek. Thumbs up to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Rashad, your next in rotation. What do you think? And thumbs up and thumbs down.
I want to say that I love the movie. The soundtrack, the characters, the scripts, it all worked together to make a fun ride. At the time when I first saw it, I enjoyed it. Reviewing it again, I still enjoyed it. I still had the same amount of fun, probably even more so knowing stuff in the future. Definitely, it's a thumbs up for me. It was a great ride.
All right.
All right. And Groot.
I am Groot.
All right.
No. All jokes aside, I'm still enjoying this movie. More than anything, it's an introduction to the characters, and there's certain things that I didn't know about the first time that I saw it. Like when it comes the whole dynamic between Ronan and Thanos, because at that point I didn't know what was coming. I don't know if I said this in the beginning. When I first saw this movie, my barber just I went and got a haircut, and my barber was just like, "Yo, come with me." So we went, and I went into it blind, not even knowing who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. Obviously, we all know that I love plants, so I love Groot. But all jokes aside, like I really think this was one of the better ones. It was definitely better than Captain Marvel. I give it a thumbs up. And I'm looking forward to next week. Now, with that being said, I made a lot of jokes about not being prepared, but truth be told, I want to apologize to all of you because I really wasn't prepared because I was super busy, but I should have been better prepared. And I will be next week because I'm going to watch the movie today because I'm liking this movie. I'm liking this movie, and now I'm going to watch the next movie. And I really like, especially the plant-based themes of the movie. Now I bring out the snake plant, really, just to tell you that this is one of the best plants that you should have in your house. And the other thing is that this is called, in Spanish, this is called mother-in-law's tongue because it gets really, really, really big, just like a mother-in-law's tongue.
So thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up. I was just saying positive things. I didn't say anything negative. Like, the only thing that didn't make sense. Well, anyway, no, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, yeah, it was good. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Well, now I'm curious what didn't make sense, but I'm curious what didn't make sense. Well, I don't even know which part you're at in the movie.
Well, no, I mean in the whole thing in the beginning, as far as him getting abducted, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
I still want to see, because that's why I don't want to do that, because like there's parts I haven't seen yet, so like that's why I said I don't want to do that at least till next week, because I want to see the story behind that. Like I want to see what that's about, because I feel like they just went too quick into it. Like, all right, his mother dies and we're all sad about it, and then all of a sudden he's abducted, and all of a sudden we see him 20 years later.
Okay,
I mean, it felt like filler, but I want to see more into that.
To answer your question, in this movie, remember, if you see the first time that Yondu actually, when did you get to Nowhere yet?
Yeah.
Okay, when Yondu rescues Quill, they say it right then and there.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very, like, there's parts in the movie where they mention it, but what I'm saying is that it's very vague. I would like for them to go into more detail as far as, like, they just pulled this kid into the ship. Let's show us, like, what the hell happened at that moment, that first time that.
The second movie tells you that story. This movie is not about that, but the second one.
Like, yeah, see, like, that's why I didn't want to get into that, until I know, you know what I mean?
No.
That's also the other reason why I apologize for not being prepared, because now I'm going to look stupid. You know what I'm saying? So like
that's fine. And at the end of the movie too, we didn't talk about it, but as Yondu was leaving with the orb, orb 2.0, the person that's with him talks about, we should have, well, Yondu's like, he did a great job, he came through. The other guy was like, yeah, I guess it's good that we didn't deliver him to his father. Because that's why
that's what I want to know about. Exactly, yes. Because they mentioned how he was cargo.
Right.
You know what I mean? And how he should have been left from the jump street. So like that's what I really want to get into.
Vic, I'm gonna answer your question when I tell you what I thought about this movie precisely. But what Rashad just said answers your question exactly. The reason why this movie you may not like how they answer this, because in most Marvel films they spell out everything so much, right? But this movie is very clear on what the story is about in this movie. The second movie will give you details about that, because the second movie is all about why they were tasked, they were hired to pick him up. But that's not what the first movie is about. So they're not going to tell you all that. They're just going to tell you it wasn't random, 1. 2, I'm the one who picked you up and raised you. 3, it was your father, who you don't know, but we know who your father is, who was a dick, as they describe, who was the one who told us to come and get you, right? So those are the 3 things. So they answer those questions within this movie, but they don't spell it out like other Marvel movies. You see what I'm saying? And personally, that's what I like. To get to where I think I'm going to say this movie is a thumbs up, let me just say this. Behind the scenes, in the movie theater, after I saw after I saw Winter Soldier, I enjoyed it, but some things just were so mind-boggling to me that I was done going to the movies to watch Marvel films. Chris makes fun of me because I've been saying it for like decades now. But when something doesn't make sense and it's not explained in the movie, I'm good. I can't suspend my disbelief beyond a certain point. You see what I'm saying? When somebody doesn't have superpowers, but they're doing superpowered things, but then other people can't do those same things and they don't have superpowers, what the hell am I watching, right? This movie I saw on Netflix when they first dropped it on there years ago, right? And I just sat down and I watched it. The music, to Rashad's point, goes exactly with every scene. Every time the music is played higher than just in the background, but it's played in the forefront of the scene, it speaks volumes to what's going on, and it adds layers to the texture of the scene that you're watching, to the character development. Every one of the characters, the main characters that are introduced, are explored. Their backstories are explored. You care about people that you didn't know anything about before. You see what I'm saying? You're emotionally invested in them. You care about a fucking tree. You see what I'm saying? You care about a rodent. You know what I mean? You care about a killer. You care about somebody who doesn't give a damn about anybody but himself. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's true.
In no other Marvel movie have I cared about every one of the main characters like I do about this one. In Captain America, I know who Captain America is. In Spider-Man, I know who Peter Parker is. I'm trying to think of the other one. In Iron Man, I know who Iron Man is. I surely didn't give a damn about him. He was a jerk. Do you see what I'm saying? But
I cared about Peggy Carter.
I don't know why you keep mentioning Peggy Carter.
Right.
She was as uninteresting as a character.
Listen, man, watch Agent Carter. Agent Carter is the shit.
I shouldn't have to watch Agent Carter.
Agent Carter was so much shit.
No, you shouldn't have to. No, here's the thing. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. You shouldn't have to watch Agent Carter. But if you watch Agent Carter and you see how much of a skilled woman this is, she is so badass, especially for the time that she was living in. Wow. Like, I really like that show.
Here's the problem with that thinking, Vic, and I'm sure you have your opinion, and I respect it. But here's why I don't like that. Here's why I don't like that. When you come out with the movie, right, and you've written down and whoever, and you've written the script, any question that you pose in that movie, I shouldn't have to wait till the sequel to get an answer. You should answer it to a certain extent in the the right?
Yeah, but they have to. They have to draw you in for the sequel.
Is that what Marvel movies do?
This is my opinion. This is my opinion. Let me explain what I'm talking about. For instance,
go ahead. Keep digging.
It's not digging. For instance, if let's use Back to the Future, right?
That's a terrible
we should do that.
You should.
No, I'm just trying to make a point. In Back to the Future, right? They established certain rules. They establish certain rules in the beginning, right? When we're introduced to the time machine, they say if you change time, if you go back and you meet yourself, it will have ripple effects, right? In Back to the Future 1, we see the ripple effects. In Back to the Future 2, we see the ripple effects if someone goes there and they manipulate it too much, that they create even a devastating reality. But actually, in Back to the Future 1, they already create another reality. It's just a pleasant one. Do you see what I'm saying? They answered the questions that they established in that movie. In this one, they answered to Vic's question. Why was he randomly taken? No, he wasn't randomly taken. 2, who took him? They answered that question. 3, was it their idea to just come to Earth? Why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. No, his father, who was in love with his mother, who the mother said, right, who he looks just like, was the one to say, go and get my son. Do you see what I'm saying? Beyond that, they don't need to answer that question. If they come out with a sequel, then yes, because they've already established that mystery, at least with the regret. Well, why did his father come? That's what the second movie should answer. This movie does its job. Do you see what I'm saying? I shouldn't have to watch Agent Peggy Carter after Captain America 1 to understand what should have been in Captain America, the First Avenger. That to me is wrong. That's backwards.
But if you see, here's the thing though. But I see why you say that.
It's always a thing.
But when it comes to Agent Carter, it's not filler from Captain America. It's just more into her story because the story of her as a SHIELD agent. Because like one of the things that happens with her in Captain America is just that her backstory is very vague. So you start to see a lot more into her. And like for this era, for this pro girl era, I think it worked out very, very well. I mean, she only got 2 seasons, but you definitely got to see a lot of filler. You definitely got to see a lot of answers. And the other thing is that show goes really in depth with Howard Stark. So you got to see a lot about Howard Stark in that show too. So yeah, man. Yeah, I see why you say what you say, but I like the whole thing with Agents of SHIELD and Peggy Carter and the Incredibles and all of that. Those little shows they have in between the movies, because they really fill out a lot of blanks.
No, I don't have a problem with them fleshing out her backstory in Agent Carter. My problem is she was written as a one-dimensional character in the first movie. I don't need to know where she grew up in the first movie. What I need to know is if she's a captain, right? If you say she's a captain, Peggy Carter, right? In Captain America 1, I should see why she's a captain to some degree.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they did not show it. That's a failure on the part of the writing. Do you see what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with Agent Peggy Carter. That show is a separate entity. Do you see what I'm saying? That could be written great. But when they don't explain something that logically would need to be explained, how is this woman a captain in 1940 something Britain when women didn't get the right to vote, but maybe 10 years prior? Do you see what I'm saying? In 1932 or 1935 in England, but she's already a captain. How did that happen? There should be some backstory. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's the writing. If you look at Ant-Man, right? In Ant-Man, when they do the backstory of why he stopped being Ant-Man, they gave you just enough information, right? So that you would say, oh, okay, this makes sense why he wouldn't work there. I don't need to know all his adventures with S.H.I.E.L.D. I just need to know that he invented it way back when. He used to be a hero and he stopped for whatever reason. But anything else, they can answer that further. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, they answer that further. They show the mission, which was his last mission when his wife went into the quantum realm. Do you see what I'm saying? And then the movie explores what the quantum realm is. Do you see what I'm saying? So that movie answers its own questions that it raised up. The first movie, if it establishes something, it answers it in that one. Back to the Future.
Did we see Michelle Pfeiffer again?
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah, in the Wasp.
Yeah, did we see her again after part 2?
Yeah,
she was in Avengers Endgame, just like a lot of people were, except for Peggy Carter. But you know, the funny thing about Peggy Carter is it's canceled, and so is this conversation, because James, I need your final thoughts of Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, sorry.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 before I tell you why you're wrong about everything you just said for the last 29 minutes. So go ahead and start talking about what did you think about Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I'm interested to hear your opinion and why you're giving it the thumbs up there. I know that you are.
I disregarded Chris because he's disrespectful, but this movie was great. For the reason that I said, I don't know you were paying attention to it all. It does what a movie's supposed to do. And all joking aside, it brought me back to wanting to watch Marvel movies again, because I said they got somebody who wrote a great script. It was a great story. It was great storytelling. I love that about movies, great storytelling. You know what I mean? The music, the visuals, the comedy, all of that is added. It's an added bonus. But the storytelling is why we go to movies. Do you see what I'm saying? At least for me. And this movie hit it out the park. I love this movie. It was a great movie, which is why I'm kind of saddened about the next one, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Chris, go.
All right. So the bottom line is, let's go ahead and talk about a few things, a few fun facts of this movie. One, it's got an 8.0 out of 10 on IMDb.com. It is actually the highest rated movie that Marvel did until Avengers Infinity War. The movie was made $170 million, made $333 million in the United States, $772 million total. Some noticeable actors and actresses that were in this movie, were supposed to be in this movie but decided to turn it down or did not get the role, was Gal Gadot, who later played Wonder Woman, was in the running to be Gamora. Also, Jason Momoa, who went on to play Aquaman, was in the running to be none other than Drax. Nice. Not exactly sure if that was a better choice than Batista. We don't know. We're never going to find out. But I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and we'll talk more about that when we actually get to Aquaman. So many movies we have to review. Yondu, the adoptive father, was actually supposed to die in this particular movie, not in the second one like he did. And I would prefer him to have died in this movie instead of totally changing and ruining his character in the second movie, which they did. Spoiler alert, you need to watch the movie before you review it. I mean, why watch a review if you don't see the movie? But yes, he dies in the second one. He died in the first one. And because he didn't die, my love for the character died a little inside. So there you have it for that. All in all, this movie, I said at the beginning in pre-production, I don't believe would have been as good if you take all the music out. I think the music is actually what made a lot of the movie fun, entertaining, interesting. Not that it would not have been interesting at all. It would have been, but it went from a C to a B in my personal opinion because of the music. I actually was a big fan of Ronan for a little while. Going back and remembering him now, I'm not as big a fan of him. I was a fan of him, and I remember arguing with Rashad over this because I felt like he punked out Thanos in this movie because he killed his right-hand vizier, and Thanos just looked menacingly after and did absolutely bullshit. Fun fact, this is also Josh Brolin's first time playing Thanos. That's why he changed colors from one Star Trek character to another, if you listen to Chrissy. So
Thanos didn't give two craps about that Barker. You know, he can make another one. He can get another one. So that's why he didn't even turn around when he first killed him. He was like, okay. And he called him out, and he was like, you acting like a child. Why am I give attention to a child?
Mm-hmm.
But
to me, it looked like he was
and I'm going to kill you. That's what he said to him. He said, I don't play around with children, but you talk back to me again, I'm going to kill you. Now give him my stuff.
Well, I agree with you on that because he definitely acted like a child at the end of the movie. I liked the dance battle sequence because it was fun, but at the same time, that's not how I want a person supposed to be made as a big bad villain to go out. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I agree with what James said. I understand the mechanics behind it. Doesn't take away from the fact that it was a little lackluster for me, and it's going along the lines of most Marvel movie villains. But at the end of the day, I do give this movie a thumbs up. I remember going to see it in the theater. I also, and this is another thing, another point that I want to add out. There are certain movies that are better than you, that are better than they are because you go in there with low expectations of the movie. And then the movie actually exceeds those expectations. Just like there are some good movies out there, but not as good as you thought they would be. And it actually makes the movie not as good as it actually is. This, in my opinion, as good as the movie was, is one of those movies. I went in there with low expectations. I'm like, this looks stupid. But I went in there with a smile, you know, and I was happy. So for that, I just wanted to go ahead and throw that disclaimer out there. But I will give, for the second time ever on this show, a thumbs up. So everybody gave this movie a thumbs up, and glad they made it. The characters were interesting, just like James said. Was I liking every single one of the main characters? Yes. My favorite character is no, I don't like Groot. I was not a fan. And let me show you the acting range of one Vin Diesel. His acting range was so great in this movie. He should have won an Oscar. His one line that he said throughout the entire movie, he recorded in 8 different languages because his acting range is so great in this movie.
Oh, wow.
He said, hey, let me record it in other languages because I'm that good. So he could win an Oscar anywhere. He could have went to Bollywood and got whatever their equivalent of the Oscars are. So I want you to keep that in mind. But that being said, thumbs up from me, thumbs up from Season Superior, thumbs up from the next Doctor, thumbs up for Iron Group, thumbs up from Unexpected. Unexpected, you look like you have something you want to say. Go ahead and take it away.
No, I mean, I think Chris is right when he talks about Marvel. I'll give him that one in that how they shortchanged the villain. And usually that's how it's anticlimactic, how they end up going out. The only one where I thought it was kind of good, how it went out peacefully, ironically, is Thanos at the end of Endgame. You know what I mean? When he sits down and he realizes, all right, I lost. You know, it is what it is. And he just sits down and he takes a breath, his last breath, and he just enjoys that moment. But in this one, when I initially saw it, it bothered me. It still does bother me again because I don't understand villains. You know, you got everything you need, tap the damn thing and then speak after. You know, who cares? They're going to be dead anyway. You know what I mean? What do they need to hear it for? You know? But looking back at it, I guess, okay, he was distracted. What is this human doing, or this mortal, as he calls him? What is he doing? But to me, it makes no sense because Chris Hewitt, because why would he care? They're going to be dead in an instant. This movie I prefer over the second one because it starts to do that thing about Marvel films that I hate so much. They can't have their own insular film. It always has to be a tie-in into something else. And a lot of times when you do that and you have so many hands on the cookie jar, it messes up the formula, right? And the second one gets bogged down, and he can't have these powers that they established in this movie because they have to fight Thanos. You know, and even though it's supposed to take place in 2014, the movie didn't come out in 2014. The movie was one of the last films to come out right before Infinity War, and they established rules. It was one of the last.
Talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Volume 2, yeah.
Oh yeah, 2017. Yeah, you're right.
And so whereas he's giving these genetic powers, that's the whole movie is about genetics. because his father dies, he's no longer genetically what he is. I don't have to say it, but you all know what I want to say. I'm dying to say it.
You said tune in next week.
Yes, tune in next week.
Hey, that's what you said right there.
Yeah.
But for all those reasons why I like this movie, that's why it bothers me, the second one, because I enjoy this one so much. You know?
I agree. And we're going to talk all about that next week because the first one, in my opinion, was also better than the second one. But we'll talk about that next week. Does anybody else have any final thoughts? Okay, let me thank so much. Next Doctor, you articulate as always. Let me thank you so much, Next Doctor, for joining us. We appreciate it. Hopefully you'll come back and join us another day. And you have fun. Ladies and gentlemen, Unpopular Reviews Unpopular Reviews going as long as the movie. But please make sure that you join us on Monday for another episode of Unpopular Reviews. This is the Wrestling Edition, Monday Night Raw, starring myself, Katrina Storm, as well as Big Daddy Cool immediately after Monday Night Raw on Tuesday. You can join us for Unpopular Reviews Gaming Edition, where we talk about Super Mario Party as well as Mario Kart. That's starring technician David Sanderson, as well as Mark Victor Rodriguez, who I think is not going to be in tree form anymore. And then on Wednesday, we have Unpopular Reviews Interviews Edition, where the Mark Victor Rodriguez will be interviewing Tiny from Global Promo Battle. That group, which has a whole bunch of people going in and doing wrestling promos against each other. That should be a really entertaining and interesting episode. And then later that evening, we have Unpopular Reviews Dark Side of Ring Edition, which Katrina Storm, the Mark Victor Rodriguez, as well as the Willatine Dream, will be talking about the Macho Man Randy Savage and Elizabeth's relationship going back and forth, up and down. On Thursday, Unpopular Reviews NXT AEW Results Edition with none other than the technician David Sanderson, the Mark Victor Rodriguez again, I think. Wow, man, you're everywhere. Bad Guy Jack and the Insider David Sanderson, and then we'll wrap it up on Friday, Unpopular Reviews SmackDown Edition with myself, Big Daddy Cool, and then back here next week, Unpopular Reviews Entertainment Edition, talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with C. the Superior, myself, the group, and Unexpected, or whatever their names are, next week. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Go ahead. Is that you say bye?
Bye.
There you go. There goes that famous wave. And we'll see you next time right here on Unpopular Review. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen.